It's 7:35, and I would like to call the Lansing City Council to order and ask that the clerk please call the roll.
Okay, Councilmember Betts. Councilmember Dunbar.
Here, participating from South Lansing, Michigan.
Councilmember Garza.
President participating remotely from Lansing, Michigan.
Councilmember Hussein.
President participating remotely from Lansing, Michigan.
Councilmember Jackson.
President participating remotely from Lansing, Michigan.
Councilmember Spatafor.
President participating remotely from Lansing, Michigan.
Councilmember Spitzley. Is she back on the call?
She is Councilmember Spitzley.
Participating remotely and mutely from Lansing, Michigan.
Okay. And Councilmember Wood.
I'm present and participating remotely from Lansing, Michigan.
Okay, we have 7 members present, a quorum. Councilmember Betts is absent. And we are to the meditation and pledge of allegiance.
Yes. Is there anybody that council members wish or the mayor wish to have have us keep in our thoughts as we reflect in this evening? Councilmember Wood, then the mayor.
Thank you. I think all of you know that Olivia Letts passed away. Many of us know her and know the work that Olivia did along with her husband, Dick, for this city over the years as an educator, what she did for the Lansing school system. And she will be missed for all of us that called her friend. And so our support goes out to her friends and family at this time.
Thank you, Councilmember Wood. Mr. Mayor.
I was going to ask that you remember Olivia Letts, who was a friend also of mine, like Councilwoman Wood, and I'm sure every member of council. Wonderful woman. She rode with me in the Juneteenth parade 2 years ago, and we had a great time. She really had some incredible stories. So it's a big loss for the city of Lansing.
Thank you. All right, I see no, oh, I'm sorry, Councilmember Hussein, Vice
Yeah,
President. Excuse
Yeah,
me.
thank you. Very quickly, I'd like everybody to remember Meredith Johnson and her family and your thoughts and prayers tonight. Meredith is one of our code officers here in the city of Lansing. Anybody that knows her knows that she cares deeply for the citizens of the city. She works incredibly hard to ensure good and safe and appropriate housing stock. In any event, she did lose her father and her brother within, I think, about 48 hours of one another. And that was about a week ago. So if you could keep the Johnson family in your thoughts and prayers, I'd appreciate it.
Thank you all. And would you please join me in a moment of reflection while we honor Olivia Letts and her family and Meredith Johnson and her family. Thank you. The Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we are to the consideration of late items.
Councilmember Vice President Hussein.
Sure, I would move for the suspension of rule number 9 to allow for the consideration of late items. In this case, the late item is a resolution, pertaining to recent exchanges between Councilmember Betts and citizens of the city. And it also includes official action addressing the exchanges that are to be considered.
All right, there is a proper motion before us. Is there any discussion on the suspension of rule number 9? Very good. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Hussein.
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson.
yes.
Councilmember Spatafor.
Yes.
Councilmember Spitzley.
Yes.
Councilmember Wood.
Yes.
Councilmember Dunbar.
Yes.
Councilmember Garza.
Yes.
7 yeas, 0 nays. The late item will be added to the agenda.
Thank you very much.
We are to comments by council members and the city clerk.
Sure. Council members, anyone wish to make a comment? Councilmember Wood, you're always so fast at that. I'm always impressed by that. Councilmember Wood, you're up.
There's advantages for this Zoom meeting. I get recognized right away. With that, on a serious note, I would like the city attorney, since we are having the resolution that has been moved forward as a late item, and I know we'll have discussion about that later, but I know that there has been a great deal of comment about council's jurisdiction and what we can and can't do with regards to behavior of council members. And I would like the city attorney to weigh in, especially before public comment, so we can have a better understanding of what legal ramifications we have as a council in this matter.
Yes, I will, Mr. President, members of the council. This is really not a new issue for the city. We've been through it in the past, not the recent past, but in the past. So I was able to pull out some of our old opinions. And you have to start with the city charter and what the city charter advises with respect to the actions which are the subject of this resolution you have in front of you. And the most drastic measure or remedy, I should say, in the city charter is what's called forfeiture of office. And the city, in our legal opinions in the past and current review of the city charter provisions, provides that that remedy is only available for three incidents or three actions. One is that the elected official lacks the qualifications to hold office. That's the specific statutory requirements, is convicted of a felony or violates a provision of the charter which actually calls for forfeiture. For example, in this last item, and you have to look at the charter to see if this thing is something is punishable by forfeiture of office. For example, if there was an ethics violation and it went to the ethics board and there was a finding of fault of some nature for whoever's in front of the ethics board, and that person happens to be an elected official, that could constitute grounds for forfeiture of office, because the charter amendment that added the ethics ordinance put in place a remedy of forfeiture of office. So based upon the facts that are in the resolution right now before you, the grounds are not there for forfeiture of office. A second remedy is what we determined to be inherent in a legislative body, a local legislative body, and that's called censure. You're not going to find that in the city charter. You're not going to find it in ordinances. You will find references to it either in Mason's Rules of Procedure or Robert's Rules of Order. And in general law, censure is a statement of displeasure of the elected body, the legislative body, regarding the actions of a member of that body. That resolution of censure is before you, and it expresses your displeasure with what the facts are in that resolution, and also actually speaks to censure and condemning the action, but further it recommends to the city council president that the target of this resolution be removed from all committee assignments. So that is the resolution that you have in front of you as a proposal regarding this issue. I don't know if you have any other questions or questions about it, I can address them. Yes.
That answers my question. I don't know if there are other council members that have questions to this subject. Thank you.
So there are other questions, so I will, thank you, Councilmember Wood. Thank you, Mr. City Attorney. The first hand up was Councilmember Spitzley.
So I do have a question as it relates to what you said, and then I also have another comment that I wanted to make. So are we having a discussion about this?
No, so this is not the time to discuss the late item. It's your turn as a council to do whatever you want for council member comments, but Councilmember Wood did bring up the issue that Mr. Smirka has addressed. So whatever you wish to address right now, Councilmember Spitzley, is your prerogative. We will address the late item at later.
I'll wait till we discuss the resolution to ask my questions about that for Mr. Smirka. But I did want to ask the mayor a question. And first of all, I appreciate, I asked this question via email and he responded back to me and I really appreciated the response, but I've gotten like 3 or 4 additional inquiries. And so I thought I would ask you on the record so you could reply on the record. So I've had a number of people ask me about warming centers and around the city, and the temperatures continue to be bitterly cold. They were bitterly cold last week. And so I got a number of inquiries about the feasibility of having warming centers, throughout the city. So I wanted for you to have the opportunity to touch on what the city's been doing to address, well, you can't address the extreme cold, but to provide services for folks who find themselves out in the extreme elements.
Sure. Yeah, I'd have to, and I may miss something because I know I put it into an email, so I'm happy to go back and look at that. I think Councilman Hussein also asked, and I had a few folks who asked. I mean, everybody generally knows that we have a list that we ask. We ask many of the private companies, the Myers and others, as both warming centers and cooling centers in the summer when it gets too hot. So we have this general list. Now, everything's kind of out the window this year because of COVID. Normally our own community centers and things are on the list when they're open. If they're not open, that's a challenge. So we have all of these. We've done a lot of work in the past. I think 2 years ago, maybe, when it got down to like negative 34 degrees, we send teams out that we contract with to get everybody basically into shelter. Now we'll back up. We have done a lot of work getting people sheltered. We have Geyer Community Center open now, which is where we're sheltering those who are unsheltered. Anybody who is homeless has an option to be sheltered. Some will not choose that option, but everybody has an option. And usually when it gets this cold, those PATH teams go back out and basically say, even if you don't choose to be sheltered, it's going to be negative 33 degrees, which it was during the polar vortex. It's going to be really cold. Come inside. And a lot of times, those who are unsheltered will choose to come in at least for a night or two when it's going to be that cold. So we send those teams out. Our emergency management folks have all that information. They share it with HRCS, who send people out. Again, it just depends on how cold it's going to be, how we get people out. And usually we have a lot more options, but with COVID, it's just a lot more challenging because a lot of stores are not welcoming people in for a cooling center or a warming center because it could put them over capacity under the executive order. So our emergency management folks tracked the temperature. They knew it was going to get down into the single digits. Again, they work with HRCS and others, and they've got policies and things. And I've talked to William Engleter, who's our emergency management director, for the policies that we can put. They're online, but our website is in such a place where it's very difficult to find things like that. We're fixing that. You heard in the state of the city that we're going to be putting up a new website, but I want to try and get those options in that list in a more easily readable place. And if you Google Lansing cooling centers, you'll see kind of a small list. It used to be a much bigger list. Last year at this time, it was a much bigger list. But because of COVID, it's a lot smaller. So they're doing their best to get those folks off the street, especially into Geyer, because it's a facility we have now. And we have significant capacity within our shelters right now to take people. So a lot of that work is being done. And I know I put some of that in the email to you and to Adam. And I said, I know Adam asked if he could share it. And I said, share it far and wide. I appreciate that. And we'll try and get the policy that we have put up somewhere more accessible. And again, it's a conversation I'm going to have. I already had with William. We'll make sure that that gets done.
I appreciate that, Mayor. So when you said cooling center, you meant warming centers too, right?
Warming centers, right. Over the summer, cooling centers, now warming. Good catch, Councilwoman.
All right, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Garza and then Councilmember Jackson.
All right, thank you, Council President. This is actually for our mayor. Mayor Shore, I would like you to look into something for me if you could, please. I'm hearing rumors that Kmart, the Fortune 500 company that we were just so happy to get in South Lansing, which I voted no for, but I hear that they've been putting up signs, not pulling permits. I'm hearing that, well, they just replaced signs, so they didn't have to put up or didn't have to get a permit, which I thought, speaking of building safety, that they've actually charged people for that in the past. I'm also hearing that they've done demo work inside the 5400 South Cedar, the old Kmart there, without pulling permits as well, and myriad of permit issues in the old Dad's Inn. So I'm just, seeing and hearing all this, I really would like to see if that, if it's all truthful. But I'm really concerned with the promises that they made, with the upfront footprints for new buildings and the talk of them putting the nice green space alongside the trail there. So it's just a little upsetting to me that, it's a Fortune 500 company and we're holding all these other smaller businesses, feet to the fire when it comes to pulling permits. And sounds like from what I'm hearing is they're not doing that.
Do you know, Councilman, if this first I'm hearing of this, do you know if any of the folks who brought this to you, and I'm not asking you to tell me who that is, but do you know if any of those folks have reported that through Lansing Connect or any other means to the city, or is this the first that the city's getting the information? Do you know?
As far as I know, it is someone that works for the city that told me. I don't want to get anybody in trouble, but it sounds like Susan Stackwick knows, and possibly Brian McCartney as well.
Okay, I will check with both of them. If it's an issue of they're doing work, it's either LPD for unlicensed work, or it's code compliance to see if their work is licensed. We get this from time to time, and I know code has made people in essence pull things out that have put it in. They don't have a right to have something done if they don't have it permitted. And we've actually had people, we've checked on things in the past where things have been done wrong or not up to code, and again have had it pulled out. So I'll check with our code folks and make sure that this is on their list to review. Again, first I'm hearing of it, but I'm happy to take that and have our folks check on it.
All right, I appreciate that. And it wasn't my intention to call you out, Mayor. It's my intention
No,
to
it's
just
fine.
have it on the record. And hopefully, if there are anybody, in the departments here in Lansing that are, giving them a pass, hopefully they pull that back and start holding them accountable.
I agree with you 100%, Councilmember. I don't feel like you called me out. I feel like it's a good information to present. We don't give anyone a pass. I know I've had many council members provide information that they hear in the community, which is why we work well together. And that's when we send folks out and check. And I think each one of you have provided information, as we're all part of the city. I count on the information you're all hearing on the street, and I appreciate it. We'll make sure that we get some folks out there to check it out.
All right, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Jackson.
Yes, thank you. Just two things. One is to kind of double down on what Councilwoman Spitzley mentioned. I've also heard things from the community, specifically speaking to Miss Julia Miller from Punks with Lunch, and she and others are advocating for more warming centers throughout the city as well, specifically something that's more centrally located. She mentioned that some people have trouble getting all the way to the north side to Geyer, and also to consider reviewing the standards and the protocol for when it's too cold and when it's not, and to account for wind chill and all those different things. So just wanted to voice that as well, because I said I would, and it's important. And secondly, just wanted to invite anybody who would like to receive my newsletter. It's called The Fourth Warder. We've already had 2 editions. So if you could email me at Brian T. Jackson at lansingmi.gov, then I can add you to the list and you can receive updates and email back and forth, thoughts and opinions. And I'm doing this in lieu of having our monthly constituent contact meeting that we've had for a few years. Given the pandemic, can't do it. So just trying to stay in touch on a more, I guess, personal level away from council, I guess. But either way, email me and I'll add you to the list and then we can have that correspondence. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Jackson. Councilmember Dunbar.
Thank you. Since we've been talking about the folks who are out in the cold and the PATH team that's been going out to visit them, I figure maybe this is a good forum to say this. PATH staff came by today to pick up food, and we are short dramatically in items that are needed for folks that are out. There are obviously some that are unsheltered, but there's still even homeless that are in their cars, in the tent communities, and those that shelter at Geyer. And there's a huge need right now for food that can be eaten on the fly. Like a lot of people that go to tiny pantries, and the food pantries, they're getting ingredients. They're not getting ready to eat meal bars, or pop-top cans are hugely important for anybody that can donate to those that make it easier to eat, because a lot of people that are homeless aren't carrying around silverware and can openers and things like that. And we need a lot of high protein items. So I was just going to say that, you know, we have a drop-off center. There are a lot of different places, but I know that the PATH team specifically right now is working with our nonprofit to get food out that's appropriate. And if anybody has those type of things or is willing to donate those type of things, you can bring them to the South Lansing Community Development Association. It's at 800 West Barnes in Lansing. It's in the old St. Casimir School, and we could really use those items to send out to people. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilmember Dunbar, very much. Okay, Mr. Clerk, I do not see other hands. Do you have anything you wish to say?
I do not. Thank you. So with that, we are to community event announcements. If there are members of the listening audience who wish to give community event, and this is very narrowly tailored, an event coming up that you can give us up to 1 minute of the details of the event, please go ahead and raise your hands right now for that if you have a community event. And I am not seeing any. People probably want to get onto the public comment, so we will move on.
Oh, wait, someone's hand just went up. No, you probably, never mind. They might be moving on to public comment, my bad.
Loretta Stanley often has a community event, so if you're not for.
Nope.
Linda Appling, are you for a community event? Danielle, are you for a community event?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question.
So this is a time for folks from the community to announce their community events. If that was what you wanted your hand up for, you're more than welcome to do that now. But if you're looking for public comment, we'll do that in just a second.
Public comment. Sorry.
Okay, thank you, Danielle. Sorry to.
Okay.
Just
all right. So we have no community events. So we will move on now to start raising your hand for public comment on legislative matters. And legislative matters tonight does include the ordinances for passage on the agenda, the items on the consent agenda, resolutions for action, and ordinances for introduction. And it does also include the late resolution that was added. So please go ahead and begin raising your hand. We will keep taking raised hands until the first speaker finishes their speaking. So please raise your hand. Just very briefly, for those who need assistance, dial *9 on a phone to raise your hand. Click the raise hand icon on your participant screen, or Alt Y on a Windows, or Option Y on an Apple computer. So we'll get to that in just a minute. So while you're raising your hands, we will actually hear the mayor's comments. Please, again, raise your hand if you want to speak for public comment on legislative matters.
Mayor.
All right, thank you. First, I'm not going to be part of the conversation on the late items, so I wanted to indicate several people have asked my thoughts on the situation that occurred last week with Councilman Betts and a resident. City Council is a separate and equal branch of government, so I don't usually get involved in commenting on these situations. But I want to acknowledge that the language used by the council member in that conversation that was made public was inappropriate, and it was frankly appalling. As elected leaders, we should always rise above name calling and try to find ways to work together respectfully, even when we disagree. So I condemn the language and the actions that were taken in this situation. I am going to post that on social media so that folks have my comments, because while again, I don't usually weigh into council matters, it's important that folks know my thoughts. Outside of that, on a happier note, I was proud to deliver my State of the City last week. I thank you all. I'm sorry that you couldn't be there, that nobody could be there. It was a little bit weird at a lectern talking to a camera. Talked about a lot of great things that we've done over the last year together. I thank you all. We announced a few new things coming up. I especially want to highlight the Lansing Cares dollars that are going to go out the door for our small businesses, for our micro businesses, and for our residents who are housing insecure. I know Councilman Hussein already put it into his newsletter like the day after, so I appreciate that, Councilman. And Councilman Jackson, I hope you'll get that in there too, so folks know that these dollars are available. We did close our neighborhood advisory grant process. We had 66 applications, which is great. The total amount of grant funding requested, not including neighborhoods in bloom or neighborhoods cleanups, was over $85,000. And this includes 4 new organizations, again, including 2 from the 3rd Ward, 2 new ones. So Councilman Hussein, I hope you'll at least be happy with that, although we can do more. But the engagement portion was certainly very successful. Delisa and the folks over at Neighborhoods did a great job. Neighborhood Advisory Board will review all the submitted grant applications over the next 2 months and make a funding recommendation. We'll have that by late March. We have some cool upcoming events. February 15th is the snowman competition at the Letts Community Center. February 24th is the free snow tubing at Hawk Island for Lansing residents. But please remember to pre-register. If you just show up, you won't be able to do it. You got to pre-register, although it's free. And then Councilman Garza, Mark Lawrence on my staff texted me and he let me know he is on it. He is familiar with the situation. He is on it. So either he or I will get back to you. So we want to make sure you know that. So that's what I've got. Thank you everybody for all the work this year. We'll also be getting, I couldn't get everything into the State of the City because we're trying to cut it down to about 15 minutes because people don't want to see a Zoom past 15 minutes. It went about 20 minutes, but we'll be putting out some one-pagers and other things that we've been able to get done based on the annual report that we submitted to you. So those will be coming out over the next few weeks, just because folks know that we couldn't get everything into the State of the City, but we have a lot of other things coming. So that's my report. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. We are now to public comment on legislative matters. There are no scheduled public hearings. So again, the items that the City Council will be acting on tonight listed on the agenda. If you have an agenda in front of you, it's items 1 through 23 are eligible for discussion, as well as the late item. Once again, we will accept people raising their hands up through when the first speaker finishes speaking. Each speaker will have up to 3 minutes to discuss those topics that are eligible. And the first speaker is Danielle.
Hello. So I mostly want to speak on the late action there. I have worked closely with a lot of groups over the summer and throughout the past year for racial justice in Lansing, and I feel that it is very Betts's language towards Michael Lynn Jr. showed a greater issue in Lansing. And while I do believe that Betts will be punished, I think there's so much more going on that will not be punished and will be pushed under the radar because it's not as right in your face. It's not as extreme. And it's not something that is getting pushed by the whole city of Lansing. So I want to say that on top of your punishment for Brandon Betts, which I do believe you should do as much as you can, censure him, show him that this is not tolerable, this is not acceptable for a councilman to speak to a resident this way. I also believe that you should listen to Michael Lynn's other issues with the city. He has talked about it many, many times about being the target of racism, the target of, he basically said that he is getting punished for speaking up about this racism. And I completely believe it based on everything that I know about the city and how the inner workings of the government have been targeting anybody who speaks up about these issues. So the other thing I wanted to say is I don't think it's fair for Mr. Shore, to be saying that, oh, he's doing plenty of stuff for the homeless. I don't think he's ever been to the homeless encampments. I have been many times. And I think it's unfair for him to use them for just to make himself look better. I think if you really want to show that you're working with them and working for them, you need to go there, boots on the ground, talk to them about what they need. Because, you said, oh, we have these warming centers or whatever, but I have talked to the women in these groups and they don't feel safe going to these warming centers or to these shelters because there's such a problem with sexual assault and such a problem with being silenced when they talk about it. And I think that's a real issue that nobody has even talked about. They just assume, oh, people are being whiny. They don't want to go into the shelters. And it's not that. It's that they're trying to decide what's safer, to stay outside in freezing weather or to go possibly be sexually assaulted. And that is unacceptable to me.
Thank you.
I guess that's it.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have Charles Ford, followed by Ash. And now that the first speaker is done, we will stop accepting additional raised hands.
Good evening, council members and Mr. Mayor. I'm here to speak on item 4, which is ZA 2020, 2918 Northeast Street to be rezoned from F commercial to H light industrial. Some things were said at the Committee of Development and Planning. We did not get an opportunity to speak at that meeting, so I'm going to speak now. Mr. GDN Farms, who is Jermaine Redding, who is an African-American owned business, has been approved by the state of Michigan since 2017 and licensed to be a caregiver, which they can use, sell, and grow on the property. Now, when he was informed that he was not able to do it, he wasn't shut down by the city. He shut down voluntarily, called me, and I filed the process to have his property rezoned from F commercial to H light industrial. We went before the planning board. The city made the same arguments that it would be some type of inconsistent zoning. This is not spot zoning. This is not inconsistent. Right next door, right behind this property, there's a property already rezoned H light industrial for marijuana grow. And keep in mind, the Ms. Stackowitz also said that there was a 4-1 vote in planning board. It was a 4-2 vote. There were 6 planning board members there who voted to move this property from F commercial to H light industrial. There was public comment. The public comment was positive. This particular property was an eyesore. No commercial organization could even make it there. It was an eyesore. My property, my client has improved the property. The public comments said that the property looks very nice. And they are glad to have my client there. So I think that now that it's a very good visual piece of property, it definitely is an improvement for the city of Lansing. I really think that this council, if you haven't been out there, you need to go out there. Right now, it's a commercial facility that is selling cars, and he has all the necessary approvals. He worked with the city in getting those approvals. So this is not a person who's a bad actor. And I really didn't appreciate someone who said that we're not going to reward bad acting. This is a person who is a great actor. He's been a business owner in the city for years. He should be rewarded for good acting. So he has already got all the necessary approvals necessary to have this property rezoned from F commercial to H light industrial. And we ask that this council approve this ordinance in agreement with the planning board.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Ash, followed by Loretta Stanaway.
Hello. To the council and to Brandon Betts, if you're listening on City TV, coward. The comments made earlier this month to Mike Lynn were disgusting and unbefitting of a leader. Betts, you've destroyed your ties with the movement for Black liberation. I don't know how you sleep at night knowing you've done that to yourself and your community. Your claims against Black Lives Matter and the City Pulse are also unfounded. The last message exchanges you had with them in early December were made public, and we all see your lies. You have institutional power, and you are meant to represent every person in your ward, not only those that you like. Council, he made it clear that he does not see his office as representing all in his ward. Beyond all the taunting and abusive language, which was obvious, two things heavily stood out to me. The comment that Mr. Lynn would turn his back on every white person who doesn't do exactly what he wants was clear white fragility. Then, Betts, you accused him of not only trying to fight you physically, but of potentially shooting you. You accused a Black male constituent of potentially shooting you. Again, you accused a Black man of wanting to shoot you. What bile? Resign. And to the council, I repeat once again, he accused a Black constituent of wanting to shoot him. Do something to remove him from his seat, and if he refuses to resign, just do something, because he's clearly unhinged and unfit for the position. And I'll be speaking to you later about other issues in the city, but that's all I have for now. I yield the rest of my time. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Loretta Stanaway, followed by Kelsey.
Hello, coming to you from Tucson, Arizona. I would like to also speak to the late item about Brandon Betts's behaviors, but not just his recent behavior. I'd like to remind the council that this is a pattern of bad behavior that has been exhibited by this council member since he became a council person. I'll take you back through them if your memories are not sufficient at this time to remember them yourselves. He began with an attack on Sandra Zirkle from the Board of Water and Light, in which he was very ageist and unflattering to her, and his comments were so discriminatory that they could have been actionable. Then there were his comments that were essentially inciting people to riot against the city and were a violation of his oath of office to support the Constitution and protect the citizens from all enemies, foreign and domestic. 3, he was in a verbal exchange that was entirely inappropriate with Councilperson Spitzley. And then 4, we have this episode of the latest with Michael Lynn and his commentary there, which certainly constitutes at the very least cyber harassment. I think that it's very clear that this council person has issues which don't entitle him to hold his seat any longer, and he needs to be removed, censured, recalled, resigned, whatever is the most you are able to do, because this person is not competent to hold this seat any longer. And going on to Miller Road and Orchard Court, the proposed rezoning there for the construction of a 4-plex or 2 4-plexes. I am just a little concerned there because the property would abut what actually is still an expansive stretch of property that's dedicated parkland and could conceivably at some time be expanded off of North Cemetery. So it's interesting to know what his response would be if he were not able to buy that dedicated parkland by a vote of the citizens. How would he respond to the city expanding the cemetery into that if they chose to do so? How would that impact his projects and its plans for the future? And then finally, I am fully in support of the rezoning for Sparrow Avenue for the St. Casimir property to become a shelter and a community center. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Kelsey, followed by Nancy Parsons Melo.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Kelsey. I'm a local organizer and activist here in Lansing. I think words kind of fail us to describe how disgusting the behavior was of Brandon Betts towards Michael Lynn Jr. in this, like the last commenter mentioned, latest string of events that he has brought upon people. I personally have organized with him in various capacities, and just as a colleague or volunteer to work with him, I'm personally ashamed and really embarrassed. His behavior is appalling and he needs to be resign or be removed immediately. He is what a lot of organizers really fear, which is performative activism, and an activist who is just doing it for gain and not actual true racial equity. And I'm having a hard time talking because I'm so disgusted and so appalled. It's a pattern of behavior that he has shown to the Lyns. And we need to be paying attention to the blatant discrimination that has happened towards Michael Lynn Jr. and to Erica Lynn, the way that Mayor Shore has gone after them and several different things that are happening. And I just would encourage everyone on this council and everyone listening to watch the pattern of behavior. You can do that by liking their Facebook page, America 20 to Life. You can also look at the really strong statement that came from the DSA, or Democratic Socialists of America, specifically the Lansing chapter. And I also would everyone encourage to support the Poor People's Campaign and Lansing Black Lives Matter and see their specific statements on this matter. It is important that we listen to everyone on this topic, but specifically we need to be listening to marginalized people groups such as the Poor People's Campaign, Black Lives Matter, America, because unfortunately they've all seen this before, and it's important that we listen to people who are resilient and have had to go on this before. Yeah, and I guess, to everyone listening, if this kind of behavior happens to you, if you were gaslit, if you're threatened like this, know that you did absolutely nothing to earn it, that you are worthy of proper communication and proper boundaries. And I yield the rest of my time.
Thank you. Next, we have Nancy Parsons Melo, followed by Jen Tothell.
Thank you, council members. I'm speaking on regards to Councilmember Betts and his actions. Many of you know that in the first ward we have numerous neighborhood groups. I think we have approximately 18 plus numerous, we have numerous neighborhood watch groups. And all last year there was hardly any, if none, communication with any of the neighborhood leaders. And the communication that just took place last week, I am ashamed that a leader that's representing our first ward would treat a council a constituent in that manner. And I'm asking that he be removed from any committees, and asking for resignation or any type of punishment that suits the issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Jen Tothell, followed by Pete Hochstetler.
Hi, I don't know if you can hear me.
I can.
Great. I live in Ward 1. When I saw the exchange between Councilperson Betts and Michael Lynn posted online, my initial reaction was disgust. I could not believe what I was reading. And yet this type of bullying behavior by people in positions of power has been part of our nation's history, especially when it comes to voices of opposition, and it has to end. It needs to end at all levels in our nation. It is on all of us to stop this behavior in its tracks. Our nation also has a history rich with voices of liberation, and when these voices continue to be silenced, part of the soul of our nation dies. It is in this spirit that I call on the Lansing City Council to request and accept the resignation of Councilmember Betts. Accountability matters, and we all face consequences for our behavior. And this is one of those times for Councilmember Betts. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, we have Pete Hochstetler, followed by Tobias Webb.
Hi, I'm going to talk quick. My name is Pete, and I've been involved with a group called Lansing Syringe Access, a local syringe service program for the last couple of years. And I'm here to convey Lansing Syringe Access's support of Councilperson Brian Jackson's proposal to repeal a set of city ordinances and to express appreciation for Mr. Jackson's thoughtful rationale. All the proposed repeals make sense to me as an individual, especially the one about climbing trees, but most relevant to Lansing Syringe Access's work are items 42 and 43 related to the possession of drug paraphernalia and to loitering in the vicinity of drug use and drug paraphernalia. Syringe service programs, also called needle exchanges or harm reduction programs, are endorsed as a best practice in disease and death prevention by the World Health Organization, Center for Disease Control and Prevention, American Medical Association, American. Oh,
I'm sorry. I'm terribly sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Those actually are not under legislation this evening. They're for referral. So there is a second chance for public comment at the end of the meeting, at which you are more than welcome to continue your remarks, but just not at this point in the schedule, or just the items for action, including the late item.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt. Thank you.
I'll yield the rest of my time. Thanks.
Okay, we have Tobias Webb, followed by Brayette Garcia.
Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
All right. What up, Danielle? What up, Pete? Speaking of people who've done more for the homeless communities here than Andy Shore. Appreciate y'all for coming on. I also want to uplift what Brian Jackson is about to say. You know, we're not supposed to do that here. So I will move on quickly to talk about Brandon Betts. He's obviously not fit to lead Lansing. Yet another occasion where I gotta come on and ask for y'all to work against white supremacy in our local government. He's not the only one. My position still stands on the fact that most of y'all are not doing enough in our community to actively combat the systemic racism that is happening every day. And this is just one small example of it. So, you know, if you're on the city council, look within yourself and ask yourself, what are you doing every day? Not only to not enable white supremacy, but to actively work against it. So yeah, again, that's why I want to support Brian Jackson in what he's saying and removing these ordinances, because that's about the poor communities of Lansing, and he's coming with some proper good stuff, as opposed to actively harming the communities, which is something we see from our mayor and from some other city council members, for example, Betts. So yeah, appreciate y'all. Yield the rest of my time.
Thank you. We've got Brayette Garcia, followed by Ken Dagner.
Hello, thanks, council members. I I'm actually Ray Garcia. I'm using my daughter's computer. So, I'm here in regards to the Z5 northeast corner of Miller and Orchard Court. I'm trying to rezone that. I want to purchase the property from the land bank. I've got support from John Crone. I've talked to Brett Kaczynski from Parks and Rec. He thought it was a great idea. There's Sue Statuich, some zoning. We've talked many times. She is seems to be in support of it. Originally she wasn't, but this property was a residential property at one time. There was a house there. Well, like I said, I'll let you know who I am. I've lived in Lansing all my life. I was born and raised here. I've lived at 6739 South Washington Avenue, which is about 1.5 miles away. My business is VMG Construction. I've been a licensed builder for many years and business for 21 years. And my address is 6081 South MLK Junior Boulevard, which is about 2 miles away from that property. So I'm very familiar with this area, all of Lansing. I'm from one side of town to the next. I'm a landlord, builder construction. I owned many properties and I keep them up immaculately. From my home to my rental properties to my business. I'm not obviously things for profit, but I also take care of my stuff because I take pride in my properties. Let me see. I make my tenants accountable. I came up with a plan a site plan so that you could see that there would be adequate parking. We're going to be involved with the SCRAM program so that there's not the riffraff that we see down the street. We had a lot of support signatures. One that we actually turned in our favor when she originally wasn't in our favor. And to respond to the lady that said that about the cemetery, that property was actually never part of the cemetery. It was given to the city of Lansing. As you know, there's a wall there, probably 20 foot high with a concrete wall. So I doubt, and I actually talked to Brett Kaczynski, and he said he would probably never make that part of the cemetery because it never was. So I'm just asking for your guys' support. This is a long process, and so that's all the information I have. But I'll stay in the meeting to see if there's any questions from you guys, just for your support, if I can get it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Ken Dagner, followed by Katie Burmeister.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Ken Dagner. I'm the father and the guardian now of the resident at 1416 Vermont Avenue. A little history, and I think I've exhausted my appeal already, but my son was riding his bike on the river trail in May and was hit by a hit and run driver that ran a red light. He was in intensive care for over a month. Half of his skull was on ice for 31 days. And evidently he had a couch on his porch. I was unaware of. I had a lot of stuff to deal with. Somehow somebody said that someone else was living at his residence to get his mail, which is absolutely incorrect. There was no one at his residence. In any event, I found a letter from the city that he had been charged $680 or something to remove a couch inside furniture porch. My son was not getting his mail. I was getting piles of medical bills and didn't find the thing on time, but evidently the city satisfied this by notifying him of mail to remove it. I'm just thinking that, the lack of compassion in this case sucks. And had I known that that couch should have been removed, I had a pickup and I would have taken it. The charge was excessive. My son is still in therapy 2 days a week and will never be the same. And the police department dropped the ball by closing the case when we pointed out a suspect vehicle 2 blocks from the scene with the damage, the color, the make, and the license plate removed. And that's all. I yield the rest of my time. I'm just not really happy with this whole mess.
Thank you. Next we have Katie Burmeister, followed by Kyle.
Hi, my name is Katie Burmeister, and I am from Lansing's first ward. I've lived here for 15 years. This is my first time ever joining in on a Lansing City Council meeting, but it's out of the norm for me, but I felt very moved to speak up about Councilman Brendan Betts' behavior and the insisting on his removal. I was appalled to see the messages that he had sent to Michael Linz, as others has commented on. That is absolutely unacceptable. That is not anything we want to see here in Lansing, and he must be removed. I'm very disappointed that he has not himself stepped down. I also just wanted to say that I support Councilman Jackson's proposals to remove ordinances that disproportionately affect poor here in Lansing. And I just want to say also that I love the Poor People's Campaign and the work that they are doing, and would love to see more support for them. And I yield the rest of my time.
Thank you. We have now Kyle, followed by Mike Lynn.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, so I'm Kyle from West Side. I'm coming to speak on the late item. What Brandon Betts said was flat out disgusting and lacked any human decency. And I was glad to hear that this body was already looking into options with the city lawyer as to what to do in this situation. His term ends in 2023. And so I would recommend that this body basically just ask for his resignation. And if he says no, we need to talk about what the people's options are. Can we do a recall? Can we have a special election? We need to end this man's career, because this is not somebody who, frankly, like, should be serving anybody, right? It's clear that, like, it's beyond disgusting, because I mean, we're talking about a sitting council member of this body antagonizing a leading civil rights fighter in our community. Like, this is what, like, sometimes I'm like, what the fuck? Do I live in the 1960s? Like, come on now. Okay. I'm yield the rest of my time.
Folks, I'm sorry to interrupt public comment. I just need to remind folks, we are on a cable access channel, and we need to, I understand passions and I understand your freedom of speech, and please understand, but we have to make sure that we're keeping language appropriate for the evening. I just want to throw that reminder out there. I appreciate that. Sorry to interrupt.
Thank you. Okay, next we have Mike Lynn, followed by Marcy Condor.
Hello, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
I'd like to thank everybody for showing up here today to express their feelings on what took place, but I want to dig deeper into that issue that you guys are going to be talking about today. I want to give you guys an understanding of what the city of Lansing will do when they want to get rid of somebody, whether or not that be a city council member, a firefighter, or just a civil rights activist. February 4th, 2021, I received a letter in the mail. This will play directly into what you all are talking about, Speaker Peter, so please don't cut me off here. I received this letter the day after the Brandon Betts situation, when he absolutely switched 180 and was with Andy Shore after that point. So I imagine this is somewhere around the same reason. You have been accused of misconduct. Dear Mr. Lynn, you have been accused of misconduct. The specific allegations are listed below. A predetermination conference with respect to your apparent misconduct is scheduled for February 5th. I received this on February 4th. February 3rd was the interaction. The specific facts alleged to have occurred are as follows. On January 25th, City of Lansing Fire Administration was made aware of possible conduct violations regarding firefighter Lynn and began a review and investigation of those charges. As of Lansing firefighter, you, in response to a post by the City of Lansing Police Department, stated the following concerning City of Lansing Chief of Police Dale Green. This is after they posted that dog trying to antagonize me, after they already knew it was very, very harmful and hurtful to the citizens of the city. How about giving Chief Green a call and letting him know how we feel about his department's post about that dog today? Chief Green had given me his phone number about 2 years ago in the capacity of the Village Lansing to try to bridge the gap between police and our community. So that's how I had access to the very public phone number of Chief Green. You then disclosed and published the cell phone number of Chief Green in the post. By posting the phone number of Chief Green and asking individuals to contact him on his department's cell phone about an issue you knew was controversial and at a time emotions were running high, you compromised the operational efficiency of the Lansing Police Department and made Chief Green have to change his phone number at a critical time for the city of Lansing and the Lansing Police Department. You also posted Chief Green's cell phone number at a time when the city and region is still in a state of emergency and threats against public servants are increasing. They go on to say, as a City of Lansing firefighter, you too swore an oath to protect the citizens of Lansing. Your actions on January 25th failed to live up to those. They charged me with about 5 different things. I'm being brought in for my job and for my life, as always. As always. And what was I doing? And the reason why I did that, it was to protect citizens of the city. When you posted that dog, it hurt a whole lot of people. So I want to say that this is what the city and say departments can do when they want to get rid of somebody, even when all they ever do is advocate and try to help. This is what they can do. My meeting was adjourned till the 12th. I go in for my life. Mayor Shore, do something about this.
Thank you. Next, we have Marcy Conder, followed by Ethan Schmidt.
Thank you. I'm Marcy Conder, a proud member of the Poor People's Campaign. First, I want to uplift Councilmember Jackson's proposal to remove the 15 ordinances which are penalizing the poor in our city.
And again, those are not legislative matters.
Oh, I'm very sorry. I apologize.
Sorry.
I would like to ask that you try to find a way to remove Brandon Betts from the city council if he does not resign. I cannot imagine any time behavior like that would be appropriate from a council member. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, we have Ethan Schmidt, followed by Jason.
Thank you very much for giving me the time to speak today. I will not go deeply into the comments made by Councilperson Betts. I think we all understand they were abhorrent and awful. I would like to take the opportunity to talk about how, while it's important that we look at censure, look at taking off committees, that we look at the actions that he has taken and consider the actions of the council in general when it comes to what they're doing to support community members, and how a censure of when it's so obvious and so in your face is something that is helpful in some way, but it almost is harmful because it makes everybody feel as if, oh, well, just wait for the big moments, and overall, what the racism and intimidation by government officials looks like isn't usually that obvious. People are usually smarter about concealing their text messages or making their statements when it's not recorded. And it's crucial that we understand that when we censure, and that the censure come with some kind of understanding for what proactive measures are going to be taken to ensure this doesn't happen. And what are we looking the other way for? We're looking the other way when somebody calls into a city council meeting and calls people riffraff when trying to make a pitch for developing a building. Are we gonna look the other way when the police department posts a RIP to a dog? It does, and barely mentions the person that was killed. Censuring Brandon Betts is important and it's crucial and it's needed, but I hope that the city council during this meeting today takes time to consider what else can be done. And I desperately hope the city council also does not take this as an opportunity to look down on progressive ideas, because what Brandon Betts did is the opposite of progressive ideas and the opposite of what we should do. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Jason, followed by Philip Fry.
Hi, I'm Jason.
live in Lansing. I just wanted to say that I support Mike Lynn, and I support the removal or resignation of Councilman Betts. I don't want to belabor it. Most of it's already been said, but just I wanted to emphasize that it's not, to me, an issue of language or something like that. It's really, to me, it's the parts of the text messages that look like Councilman Betts suggesting that a meeting between him and Mr. Lynn would result in physical violence. The statements suggesting or asking whether Mr. Lynn would bring his gun. These statements are not only racist and play into harmful and dangerous stereotypes of Black men. This is like when you especially consider what he said to the City Pulse afterwards about him being threatened, but they look like an attempt to bait a Black man into a situation where his life and freedom are at risk. And so I think it's a lot more than saying it was unprofessional or a lapse in judgment, unprofessional conduct, bad language, stuff like that. That's not, to my mind, the important part. So I just wanted to say that. I do also support Councilman Jackson's proposed repeals of those ordinances, especially the loitering offenses, which are very, very unconstitutional. So I think that's good work, and I yield the rest of my time.
Thank you. Next is Philip Fry, followed by Emily.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Sorry, this is Sam Klon. I have that name because I was playing D&D yesterday. But anyways, just to reiterate, as at the beginning of this meeting, I have yet to see any statement or excused absence on Mr. Betts' part. He's not here to face the music, and I understand some of that. It would be a conflict of interest for him to, be here and speak about his own misdeeds. And, there are other resolutions and motions and ordinances on the table that deserve his attention because he is my representative. He represents, an eighth of this council who's supposed to represent a quarter of the city, being the first ward. I'm going to repeat it many, many times in the next couple of minutes. This has no accountability. It has no humility. It has no vulnerability. It has no humanity. And I'm going to go through, some of the other things that have happened. There have been at least 2 ethics complaints that have been filed. The human rights inquiry forms have been submitted because that is something that is available as recourse for anyone in Lansing who feels that they have faced, identity-based discrimination. Brandon's text messages and other interactions with his constituents, not only Michael, but many other people, have been wildly inappropriate. They have been abusively manipulative of the power dynamic he's granted as a member of the council. They have leveraged racial dynamics of power in the nation by trying to goad a Black man into anger, again, against a white man in a position of power. And again, he specifically, explicitly tried to goad him into a violent crime. All right. This has lacked all tact and decorum, and all of his language, including his supposed apology and passing the buck to earlier conversations, again, number one, are pretty much baseless claims, and number 2, are rife with manipulative and gaslighting language. Quite frankly, this behavior has been borderline manic, and there's no cognitively psychological diagnosis that can give excuse to these actions. As a public official who tried to be a community leader, he needs to have willful ignorance because he's dismissed every action of accountability that has been availed to him. He has relegated everyone who has tried to give him counsel that says otherwise to what he wants, and that's not a leader. That is not someone who takes division and tries to bring compromise or unity. Councilman Betts can cite whatever he likes. The City Pulse says that he could, say he was used and abused and tossed in the trash. Again, that's very evidently self-pity, self-victimizing, gaslighting tactics. Your constituents asked to have an action done while you were in office representing them, and when you said no, you got criticism for it. That's just kind of how democracy works. And that's why we have elections, to weed out people like you who do not abide accountably to the people that are the electorates. Right. So no one in Lansing wants to work for Brandon Betts. No one in Lansing wants to work with Brandon Betts. No one in Lansing really wants to vote for Brandon Betts because no one in Lansing trusts him any longer. And that is his problem. And without swift action, it becomes the council's problem. It bleeds over into the trust that you guys have in being complicit.
Thank you. Next I have, and I assume it's 2 different people. I have Emily followed by Emily Heverly. So first, Emily.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Hi. Yeah, it is two different Emilys. This is Emily Walkowski from the South Side. I mean, almost everyone on this council at this point probably knows me and knows that I have been friends with Brandon Betts for a long time. I at one point considered him a close friend of mine, but his inability to deal with interpersonal issues has ruined his relationship with me, as with many other people. And obviously, we are dealing with the issues with Mike Lynn right now, his comments towards Mike Lynn, but there's so many other issues with Brandon Betts that are eroding the public's trust of him. So I guess we'll just start with that. But the thing that's most interesting to me right now is to see so many of you on council condemning Brandon's actions towards Mike Lynn, when I've seen so many of you be complacent in the city's treatment towards Michael Lynn Jr. and to so many other Black people in our community. And I'm talking especially to you, Andy. You've taken this opportunity to jump on the bandwagon of publicly shaming Betts when everybody else is, but we all know that you're only doing this for clout and for your public image. The racism that Brandon displayed is the same exact racism that you have displayed time and time again, only he made the mistake of making his slightly more unhinged. At this point, we are represented by two cis, straight, white men who have displayed their racism while in office, and yet only one of them is close to being removed from office, and it's Brandon. Andy, you also need to be held accountable for your actions in the way that you have treated Mike Lynn. It's apparent that neither you should be in office nor Brandon. Yeah, you know, I guess that's all I'm gonna say. I'll yield the rest of my time. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Next we have Emily Heverly and then Rob Thomas.
Hi, good evening. Can you guys hear me all right?
Yes.
Oh, thank goodness. Okay. My name is Emily Heverly. I'm a resident of the First Ward. I'm trying to look at my my notes from this evening. This past week, I sat on my grandmother's kitchen floor and read her the text message exchange between Brandon and Mike Lynn. If you have ever had to read the words D-bag troll to your 94-year-old grandmother who has served on city council, you're welcome to trade places with me. We both have very differing and polarizing political ideals, but what we did agree on is his complete lack of character, and his actions show a complete lack of respect for government. I'd like to yield the rest of my time. However, I would like a little bit of clarification, maybe later or further in the meeting, from the city attorney on city ordinance 2-301, absence of office. I'd like to know if Brandon's absence from tonight's meeting begins that cycle of 60 consecutive days of absence from office, or when that timeline would have established. With that, I'll yield the rest of my time.
Thank you. Next we have Rob Thomas, followed by CJ Pratt.
Good evening. My name is Rob Thomas. I've been a Lansing city resident for about 15 years. I've been off and on paying attention to city council. I'm not gonna lie, I don't really pay attention to everything you guys do. You do a lot. But over the last year, I've been very, very attentive to what's going on with city council. I don't talk at these. I'm usually here to learn, to hear other city residents and their concerns so that I can try to support people in any way that I can. But today, I'm here specifically for the late item. As a Black man in this city, to see a sitting city council member go after another Black man, regardless of their relationship, or past relationship, or anything that they may disagree on, but to see a sitting city council member go after another Black man and try to incite this man to anger is terrifying to me. And probably every other Black person, every other Black man sitting here right now watching that little black boy in Brian T. Jackson's camera is nervous, because that's the type of action that causes something very serious to happen in a bad way, and it normally falls hard on the black man. So I'm not here actually to speak to city council. I'm not here actually to speak to the mayor. I'm not here to speak to you, Mr. Swope, but I know, Brandon Betts, you are listening, and I hope you've listened to everybody who's already spoken. And I hope you understand that if you are the man that you claim to be, as long as you sat in the seat, the council shouldn't have to do anything. You, sir, should take accountability for your action as you try to swoo everybody else to do. Remove yourself and be accountable for your own actions, sir. If you're trying to save your political career, it shouldn't happen here. Move along. Thank you. I yield the rest of my time.
Thank you. Next, we have CJ Pratt, followed by Daniel.
How are you, friends? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Well, I want to say, I honestly want to start. This is going to be with Brandon Betts' scenario, but I want to start by thanking all the good work that everybody does. Thank you for everybody in the boxes right now. We know COVID is a difficult time, and for all of us. Andy, I want to thank you too. It's I don't agree with the militarized police myself. I don't agree with the rubber bullets or the tear gas, but I do agree with your compassion, your friendliness, and your understanding to the entire scenario. I honestly see a good person that is being attacked by a lot of people, and I think that it's a tough position to be the mayor of this great city. I say that on behalf of myself, my spiritual being as well. You know that I've spoken before on behalf of the Baha'i faith and our interfaith movements and what we wish for with equality with Muslims and other minority groups besides African Americans, although my true love for the boy in Brian T. Jackson's camera view, we do need to find racial equality across the board as well as religious equality. I wanted to start with that and then voice the need for Brandon Betts to resign. I do apologize as a citizen, a previous employee in Parks and Recreation Department of this great city as well, for the actions of Brandon Betts, and any aggressive behavior that goes upon to any of our citizens needs reprimand. And I say that from my heart. Thank you, friends. Let us find balance, and I'll resign the rest of my time. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Daniel, followed by Noah Walker.
My comment was for the end is not a legislative item.
Okay, then we have, you'll need to raise your hand again when we get to that point. So we have Noah Walker, followed by Erica Lynn.
Hi, everyone. So for pretty much for clarification, I haven't really been all that involved with local city politics because I have been focused on like national elections in 2020. But I do know enough that the structural inequities are already bad enough to begin with. And I think Brian T. Jackson, for his entire proposals to get rid of these like ordinances or whatever kind of policies.
And those are not legislative matters tonight, sir. Okay. Sorry to interrupt.
All right. But anything that's like basically interrupting and destroying the lives of poor people, I'm very much against as well. So I thank Brian T. Jackson for doing that. And I am a resident of the 4th Ward. So I want to mention the late item. And this is with profound disappointment, irritation, and anger that is particularly strong because the kind of language that Brandon Betts said is something that you would see out of a Klan rally, out of something that a white supremacist would say. Even I heard that kind of rhetoric from Democrats too, from Beth Bashert in Ypsilanti, from Joe Biden, who said that if you can't decide between me or Trump, then you ain't black, as a way to basically ignore a voice of black folks. And right now, I hear from Brandon Betts calling him a D-bag troll and also threatening to goad him into anger. Michael Christopher Lynn, who has already experienced discrimination for 20 years, not just from Betts, from a lot of city council members, including the mayor. So what I really would like to see is for Brandon Betts to resign, first and foremost. And if not, you need to find a way to remove him from office right now because his days in office are numbered. Thank you, and I will basically remove my entire, I'll yield back my time.
Thank you. And our final speaker that raised their hand by the deadline is Erica.
Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. I obviously would like to speak about the late item. I, along with my husband, Michael Lynn, experienced the actions and words of Councilmember Betts firsthand. I don't think I need to beat a dead horse on how frustrating, how unprofessional, how unacceptable, how egregious it was. I would hope that all of you have read the texts. Those are the truth. That is what happened. If you want a different, take of it, if you think that there is more context, etc., feel free to ask if you need that to do what it is that you all need to do as a body. Because at this point, I believe that the recent letter that my husband read from the city of Lansing is more retaliation. It is more of what we have been going through for years. And I believe that it is absolutely a direct result of what happened to us concerning Councilmember Betts. It is not a coincidence, in my opinion. And at this point, I am tired. I'm exhausted. I am angry and resentful because we are always left to wonder how elected officials are going to be held accountable. And I have that same feeling tonight, wondering, is Brandon Betts going to be held accountable? I don't have a lot of faith because I've watched time and time again, Mayor Shore not be held accountable. And listening to you all discuss this now, I don't have the utmost faith. I know I've heard a lot of words thrown around, but I can tell you this, as I sit here and listen to discussion, I know that where there is a will to hold accountability, there is a way. And I know that the city of Lansing finds absolutely every single way possible that they can to hold my husband accountable for things he hasn't even done. So I am asking you all to figure it out like I have so many times before, speaking with Mayor Shore. So this feels very much like deja vu for me because again, Brandon Betts has already been allowed to speak this way to other constituents. We were not the first. We will not be the last. So figure it out. Because like I said before, as you see with my husband, you all will figure out how to find a way to hold someone accountable, to give penalization, to punish, because you keep doing it to us. So find out, pretend that Brandon Betts is Michael Lynn Jr. And I can guarantee you can figure out a way to remove Brandon Betts. Thank you.
Thank you. That was our final speaker. So we are to legislative matters and we are to ordinances for passage. We have an ordinance of the city of Lansing, Michigan, providing for the rezoning of a parcel of real property located in the city of Lansing, Michigan, and for the revision of the district maps adopted by section 1246.02 of the Code of Ordinances, Z for 2020. 220 North Pennsylvania rezoning from Z residential district to DM4 residential district is read a second time by its title. The ordinance was reported from the Committee on Development and Planning and is on the order of immediate passage.
Councilmember Spitzley.
Thank you, President Spatafor. I'm just kind of trying to gather myself from the testimony. What we have before us is 220 North Pennsylvania, which is Lansing Eastern High School. As you know, Sparrow Hospital has purchased the building. And so they are rezoning it from C, requesting a rezone from C residential district to DM4 residential district. You know, there were a number of questions and concerns about this. One of the concerns was whether or not they were going to change the facade of Eastern High School, and we were told by Sparrow Hospital that that was not the case. There was some initial concern that there wasn't enough outreach made to the surrounding residents, but we've subsequently got letters of support for this rezone. This is in addition to a road vacation that has happened earlier this year, which is Jerome Street as part of the redevelopment. We've been through public comment and it's been passed by the planning board. And with that, I will move this ordinance for passage.
Thank you, Madam Chair, or I'm sorry, Councilmember Spitzley. Is there a discussion on this item from council members? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
The adoption of Z4, Councilmember Jackson.
Yes.
Councilmember Spatafor.
Yes.
Councilmember Spitzley.
Yes.
Councilmember Wood.
Yes.
Councilmember Dunbar.
Yes.
Councilmember Garza.
Yes.
Councilmember Hussein.
Yes.
7 yeas, 0 nays, the ordinance is adopted. And that takes us to the next ordinance. We have an ordinance of the city of Lansing, Michigan, providing for the zoning of a parcel of real property in the city of Lansing, Michigan, and for the revision of the district maps adopted by section 1246.02 of the Code of Ordinances Z5 2020, parcel 33010503 352 431 at the northeast corner of East Miller Road and Orchard Court from F Commercial District to DM3 Residential District is read a second time by its title. The ordinance was reported from the Committee on Development and Planning and is on the order of immediate passage.
Councilmember Spitzley.
Thank you, Mr. President. So what we have before us is a request for rezone. The developer here proposes to 2 buildings, 4 units, 4 apartment units. There is some discussion. First of all, backing up, one of the concerns that we always have, and as it goes through development and planning, is the history of that developer and whether or not they're a good landlord throughout the city. And we've found, and we've found that he is a good landlord. He is in compliance. The other thing concern was that the proximity to the cemetery right there on Miller Road. The current development and proposal does not cover the cemetery property, which is in fact dedicated parkland. And that in order for him to purchase that, it would have to go to a vote of the people. And so the current proposal does not cover that land. And so with that, it was unanimously approved by the Planning Commission. It went through public comment. There were no outstanding public comment. And with that, I would move the ordinance for passage.
The ordinance has been moved. Is there any further discussion? Councilmember Wood.
Thank you, President Spatafor. Just a couple of questions, and I think it was brought to light by Councilmember Garza on a rezone that we had done, and then found out that there were issues with building permits at other locations that hadn't been pulled. There were things like that. Do we know that there are no outstanding on other properties building permits that have not been taken care of? I know you said that there were, I believe you said there were no code issues out there. And do we know whether all of his taxes have been paid?
I guess I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know the answer to that question. Councilmember Garza, do you remember if that was brought up during committee?
No, I do not remember, and I don't believe it was brought up.
Yeah, I don't recall, Councilmember Wood, whether or not the taxes were paid. I do remember the comment from Sue Statuick, and she talked about, because we asked a question about past compliance, and but I don't recall the tax issue.
President Spatafor, my understanding was correct. The applicant said that he was going to stay on the call. Is that something that we can ask the applicant at this point?
Yep, if the applicant's on.
Mr. Garcia.
Mr. Garcia, if you want to raise your hand. Oh, there, it was, remember, Mr. Clerk, it was, or Miss City TV, it was Rayette
yes.
Garcia, yes.
Hi, thank you for keeping me on. Yes, I'm always in compliance. I always pay my taxes. I have darn near perfect credit score, so that can tell you a little bit about me. It takes a lot of hard work to have that. So all my taxes are always paid. They're always paid on time. I keep up my properties extremely well. Building wise, I have no violations as a builder. I pull permits from Meridian Township to DeWitt to Holt or Delhi, Delta, Lansing, and I know a lot of the building inspectors here in Lansing, and I have great relationships with them. So, and that takes time and hard work to have too.
Sir, my last question would be, and I know Councilmember Spitzley hit on it, but I just want for the record that this rezone and current site plan does not include the cemetery dedicated park property.
That's correct.
And I just want to make sure that that's clear.
Yep, that's correct.
Oh, can you hear me?
Mr. Garcia, yes.
Yes, yeah, that is correct. And things, just because I've looked at the site plan, and I even if I were to be awarded that, through a vote, I think I want to keep it just green and kind of keep, a nice open area, because, I don't want to have a building with concrete, all over. I want it to look nice. And, even if I purchased it, I'm not going to build on it. That's kind of been my decision over the last few weeks, just kind of reconsidering everything. I don't want, like I said, buildings and concrete. I want to see some green space. Maybe a little park, with a jungle gym or something. But I definitely don't want to make the building look, just like with building and concrete, like a downtown area. I don't want it to look like that.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, any further questions? Seeing none, if the clerk, please call the roll.
On the passage of Z5, Councilmember Spatafor.
Yes.
Councilmember Spitzley.
Yes.
Councilmember Wood.
Yes.
Councilmember Dunbar.
Yes.
Councilmember Garza.
Yes.
Councilmember Hussein.
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson.
Yes.
7 yeas, 0 nays, the ordinance is adopted. That takes us to the next, which is an ordinance of the City of Lansing, Michigan, providing for the rezoning of a parcel of real property located in the City of Lansing, Michigan, for the revision of the district maps adopted by Section 1246.02 of the Code of Ordinances, Z6 2020. That is 2420, 2432, 2442, and 2506 North Grand River Avenue from F Commercial, J Parking, A Residential, and D1 Professional Office, and G2 Wholesale Districts to H Light Industrial District, is read a second time by its title. The ordinance was reported from the Committee on Development and Planning and is on the order of immediate passage.
Councilmember Spitzley.
Thank you, Mr. President. So what we have before us is really a consolidation of a patchwork of zoning areas to H Light Industrial. So It's Z-6 2020. It's 4 different addresses on North Grand River, rezoning them from F commercial, J parking, A residential, D1 professional office, and G2 wholesale district to H light industrial. If memory serves me correctly, the developer is probably going to do some sort of warehousing. Having said that, it is kind of a hodgepodge of zoning, like patchwork. The master plan calls for industrial zoning, so it cleans up kind of like a mishmash of zoning. There really is no firm plan for redevelopment. There were no objections in the November 4th planning board. There were no objections during the public hearing that we had. And with that, I would move the ordinance for passage.
Proper motion is before us. Is there are there any questions? The Council Vice President Hussein.
I would just add, there was one concern whenever you hear warehousing, obviously in committee, the potential for self-storage came up. And it was made very, very clear that should any structures be built, that would be to warehouse equipment that is used for this individual's operations. And ultimately, it was made very, very clear, whether it be the surrounding land use, whether it be surrounding zoning, whether it be the master plan, that H or I industrial would be the appropriate zoning in this case. And the reason why I emphasize that is, and even going back to the last rezone, I think Councilman Garza was a little bit modest. He did a lot of work to make sure that the applicant had fulfilled his obligations to the city. Beyond just the master plan, the surrounding zoning, the land use. He talked to several individuals within the building department, checked on rental certs, whether or not they were current. And so, I say all that because that's kind of the above and beyond. But typically when we look at these rezones, we are looking at the surrounding land use, the zoning, as well as the master plan. So as we continue to look through these, if people are curious as to why we are landing, on one side of the fence or the other, those are the things that, in committee, we are legally allowed to take a look at. And so again, just for people's edification, but I wanted to make sure people weren't, concerned about the potential of self-storage at that particular site.
Thank you very much, Vice President Hussein. Are there any other comments or questions? Thank you to the committee for their work. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Z6, Councilmember Spitzley.
Yes.
Councilmember Wood.
Yes.
Councilmember Dunbar.
Yes.
Councilmember Garza.
Yes.
Councilmember Hussein.
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson.
Yes.
Councilmember Spatafor.
Yes.
7 yeas, 0 nays. The ordinance is adopted. And that takes us to an ordinance of the city of Lansing, Michigan, providing for the rezoning of a parcel of real property located in the city of Lansing, Michigan, and for the revision of the district maps adopted by section 1246.02 of the Code of Ordinances, Z8 2020, 2918 Northeast Street, rezoning from F Commercial District to H Light Industrial District. The ordinance is read a second time by its title and reported from the Committee on Development and Planning and is on the order of immediate passage.
Thank you, Councilmember Spitzley.
Thank you, Mr. President. So what we have before us is a rezone from F Commercial District to H Light Industrial District. It is currently being used as a medical marijuana grow facility. In order for it to receive a license from the city of Lansing, it needs the zoning to be changed to H Light Industrial. It's zoned for commercial use because that's consistent with the master plan. The planning staff was not supportive of this rezone. They said that it was spot zoning and it flied in it was inconsistent with the good zoning practices currently in place. For They also said that, that the facility was out of compliance with zoning and medical marijuana regulations. There were also some code issues with the facility. Let's see. Even though the applicant or the person requesting rezone is a caregiver, they do not have a license to grow, large scale grow through the state of Michigan because they don't have a license from the city of Lansing. At least that's my understanding. This was, staff did not recommend approval of this, but it was approved by the Planning Commission. And with that, I will move the resolution. I will remove the ordinance for passage.
Good, thank you, Councilmember Spitzley. Are there questions or comments? All right, seeing none, if the clerk would please call the roll.
On Z8, Councilmember Spitzley,
No.
Councilmember Dunbar,
No.
Councilmember Garza,
No.
Councilmember Hussein,
No.
Councilmember Jackson,
Yes.
Councilmember Spatafor,
Yes.
Councilmember Spitzley.
Already voted. No.
Oh, I'm sorry. Councilmember Wood.
No.
Okay, 2 yeas, 5 nays. The ordinance is not adopted. And that takes us to the consent agenda.
Mr. Vice President.
Sorry. So we have a number of items on the consent agenda, President Spatafor. The first is the tribute and recognition of direct home care workers. We also have a confirmation of appointment for Ashley Willis as a business owner, member of the Downtown Lansing Inc. Board for a term to expire June 30th, 2024. We have a confirmation of appointment for Thomas Patrick Morgan as an at-large member of the Planning Board, for a term to expire September 30th, 2024. We have a confirmation of appointment for Melissa Jeffries as an at-large member of the Next Michigan Development Corporation Board for a term to expire April 15th, 2022. We have a confirmation of reappointment for Molly Korn as a City of Lansing member of the Potter Park Zoo Board for a term to expire December 31st, 2023. We have a confirmation of appointment for Nate Scramlin as an at-large member of the Parks Board for a term to expire June 30th, 2021. And we have a confirmation of appointment, not reappointment, of Matthew Lancey as a City of Lansing member of the Capital Regional Airport Authority Board for a term to expire September 30th, 2024. So with that said, I would move the consent agenda.
Right, so the consent agenda has been moved. Would the clerk please call the roll?
On the consent agenda, Councilmember Wood,
Yes.
Councilmember Dunbar,
Yes.
Councilmember Garza,
Yes.
Councilmember Hussein,
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson.
No, only because I want to speak to the first one for the.
All right.
Okay.
Then we gotta start over, Mr. Clerk. Mr. Jackson, would you like to pull the first one off of the agenda?
Yes, please.
Okay, Mr. Vice President, would you please move the consent agenda minus the tribute in recognition of direct home care workers?
So moved.
Please, thank you very much. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Second.
Okay, on the consent agenda without item number 5, Councilmember Wood,
Yes.
Councilmember Dunbar,
Yes.
Councilmember Garza,
Yes.
Councilmember Hussein,
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson,
Yes.
Councilmember Spatafor,
Yes.
Councilmember Spitzley.
Yes.
7 yeas, 0 nays. The consent agenda is passed. So we are to resolutions for action. We will first go to the late item.
Well, let's start with the tribute and recognition.
Okay.
Sorry, Councilmember Jackson, I didn't see your hand. I apologize for that oversight. Councilmember Jackson, if you'd like to speak to your resolution.
Yes, briefly. Thank you, Mr. President. This is just a resolution for the unsung heroes in our city. These are the in-home care workers. You could be in a group like Peace of Mind Healthcare on Holmes Road, or you could be an individual like Doreen Bowerman. But the last whereas is, whereas during this day, November 15th, we should recognize and honor direct care workers for their commitment to providing important services to people with disabilities in our city and advocate for their living wages, benefits, and opportunities for advancement so they can continue to provide the highest quality of support for their patients. I don't need to say it more than once, but we know that these people do wonders for the people they serve and their clients, and we are a better city for them. So I would move the resolution.
Thank you very much. Thank you for speaking to that and for bringing this forward too. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on the resolution? All right, seeing none, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll on the resolution, the tribute. Excuse me.
Councilmember Dunbar,
Yes.
Councilmember Garza,
Yes.
Councilmember Hussein,
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson,
Yes.
Councilmember Spatafor,
Yes.
Councilmember Spitzley,
Yes.
Councilmember Wood.
Yes.
7 yeas, 0 nays. The resolution is adopted, and that takes us to the late item.
Okay, so the late item, Mr. City Attorney, Mr. Vice President, I guess, rather. Would you like to move?
Sure. And just so folks know, we did receive an email. I'm trying to pull it up. 7:45 that actually includes the resolution of censure. We talked, a little bit about it. Obviously, when we moved the late item, City Attorney did speak to our options so that folks know. We did have a meeting last week, Leadership and Law, to take a look at what our options were per the charter, per our council rules, and it was determined that censorship was the option on the table. Well, there were a few options. We could have done nothing, or we could have gone as far as censorship. So in any event, President Spatafor, if I don't hear any objections, I would like to, because it is concise, I would like to read from the resolution of censure. All right. So it does say, whereas recent social media posts and media coverage have disclosed text exchanges between City Council Member Brandon Betts and citizens of Lansing, and whereas the text exchanges include inflammatory and unbecoming statements from Councilmember Betts to citizens of Lansing, and whereas the statements of Councilmember Betts do not reflect the professionalism expected of City Council members, and whereas City Council speaks through official action, including censure, and whereas censure is defined as the formal resolution of a legislative, administrative, or other body reprimanding a person for specified conduct, and therefore be it resolved that the statements of Councilmember Betts do not reflect the values and beliefs of City Council, and such statements do not speak for City Council, and be it further resolved that the conduct of Brandon Betts is unbecoming of a member of City Council, is contrary to City Council traditions, and such conduct is hereby condemned, and be it finally resolved upon recommendation of the Lansing City Council that President Spatafor remove Councilmember Brandon Betts from his committee assignments and remove him from positions representing the city to external agencies and organizations. With that being said, President Spatafor, I would move the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. There is a proper motion before us. I will call on Councilmember Spitzley to begin the discussion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a couple questions. I appreciate you guys working on the resolution. It couldn't have been very easy. I know that there are, and I know you can't speak to them directly, but if in fact someone filed an ethics complaint, or if in fact someone filed a violation under HRCS, would either one of those, if supported or validated, result in forfeiture, would be grounds for forfeiture of office? Mr. City Attorney.
Under the ethics ordinance, there was a finding. It's specifically provided for forfeiture in the city charter. I'm not certain on HRCS because that's not, if I recall correctly, it's in an ordinance and not in the charter. Now, if there's a violation and it's a misdemeanor under the HRCS ordinance, then that would qualify for forfeiture because it would be a basically a crime, a misdemeanor. Certain on the ethics ordinance, I believe I'm correct on the HRCS ordinance.
Can I ask a couple more questions, Mr. President?
Yes, Councilmember Spitzley.
So under the charter 2-103 ineligibility for office, there is number 1 talks about, who has been convicted of a violation of election laws, the state or the United States, or a violation of public trust. What exactly is a violation of public trust?
Usually it involves money, financial, things of that nature, or crimes connected, financial, perhaps documents, just a whole range of things that where you're entrusted, where you have a fiduciary duty and you do something untoward, then that would be a violation of the public trust.
I appreciate that. Thank you. So would your inability to effectively represent your constituency would not be considered a violation of public trust?
Inability, I mean, there's a whole argument about what that is.
I know, I'm just asking, Jim, but I mean,
that's a hard way to go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Too much fact intensive, discovery involved in that.
Okay. So, and then I just have one.
Let me answer the other question that was raised in public, because you're probably going to get to it. The 60 days starts with an unexcused absence.
Yeah. So then another part of the charter that specifically talks to forfeiture and removal for cause. And I know you guys have talked about this stuff. So, but I think it's important to just ask the question so that people can hear the answers. So, if in fact, so we are not able to, number 3 says decision made by the city council in this section are not reviewable by the mayor, but are subject to judicial review in a hearing. Any resident of the city may petition an appropriate court to require the city council to hold a public hearing. So in order, a citizen could petition through the court to have the city council hold a public hearing on this issue. Is that correct? Or does it have to be through one of those 3 in number 2?
Which section are you in?
Section 2-302, forfeiture and removal for cause.
-302. Oh, 3.
Number 3.
Oh, I had that open. Okay, but the problem you've got there is forfeiture. There's another section that deals with forfeiture removal having to be connected to forfeiture. Forfeiture has to be provided for in the section where you find the problem. In other words, committing a crime like under qualifications for office.
Okay.
So you first have to have a section of the charter that allows for forfeiture of office. And then you can get to that hearing. That's the hearing process you're looking at.
So do we not have a section in the charter that provides for forfeiture of office?
Some of the sections, like the ethics sections of the charter, say that forfeiture of office is available under that section.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. And then my last one is, as we talk about, options for folk, 2-401 is the language for recall. Any official holding an elected office may be recalled and the vacancy created be filled in the manner provided by law. What's the process for recall?
That's going to be a process governed by the Secretary of State's Election Bureau.
Somebody's got their hand up over there.
Maybe somebody know. Oh, Chris.
City clerk has got his hand up. Yes, Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, President Spatafor for recognizing me. The process under Michigan election law for the recall of an elected officer at the local level, the first step is someone would have to file with the county clerk a recall petition, and that petition language would be reviewed by the county election commission. That now under current law, it has to be clear as well as true. So it has to be understandable and true. Once the election commission at the county level approves that language, then people would have to collect signatures within the geographic area of the person to be recalled. So in this case, the first ward, equal to 25% of the total number of people who voted in the office of governor for any candidate for governor in the most recent gubernatorial election. So it's a fairly large number of signatures, and that would force the recall election, which under a change a few years ago now becomes kind of a retention election where the person would be listed as a candidate along with other candidates who would have the opportunity to file for that office.
Thank you. Thank you. And I'll end with this. You know, it's been really difficult, and I got a text message late that night, you know, showing me those, and I was sleeping and I was immediately awoke. I think that as a city official, we've all made mistakes. I can think of a couple, and I just probably did some earlier today that I had to apologize for, but we really are and should be held to a higher standard, particularly when we're representing people. And, you know, we have to be careful. We represent everybody. We can't pick and choose who we represent, even when we're angry. And when you use inflammatory words, I mean, I got it immediately, you know, and I'm just, as an African-American female, when you make those kind of statements and you make those kind of inflammatory statements, particularly given light of things that have happened last year, and the type of antagonistic actions and words, they're serious. And you have to be accountable for that. If you're going to hold someone else accountable or try to hold someone else accountable for their actions, you have to be able and willing to be shown under the same light. You can't have a different standard for yourself, but hold other people to a different standard. You know, for me, it does exhibit a pattern from, you know, asking someone their age to, to saying that someone, you know, supports white supremacy or is a white supremacist if they don't agree with that person. We have to be able to have honest discourse without subjecting the people you're talking to insults. And again, as politicians, you know, we have to be able to be held accountable to whatever, and to be able to take criticism and not lash out. And so I will be supporting the censure. I think that, to be honest, you know, he has lost the ability to effectively represent his constituents. And that's unfortunate. I don't say that lightly, but that's unfortunate. So thank you for the opportunity to make comment and ask questions. Mr.
City Attorney.
I just want to follow up on the council member's first question. I actually had it written down here in my notes. I should have looked at them. HRCS is a civil infraction. It's not in the charter, so it's unlikely that an HRCS violation would qualify for a forfeiture of office.
Councilmember Wood.
Thank you, President Spatafor. This is a very difficult situation. Having served with a number of different council members over the years, I believe this is almost the most egregious situation that we've faced, that I've faced over this time. When I received notice about the comments and the things that were said, and I read through them, I was sickened by what I read. And I also couldn't understand how someone who is representing the city, and not just the people of the first ward, but the city, would lower themselves to conduct themselves in this type of manner. I don't think there's one of us that are here on this platform, I was going to say dais, but we're not on a dais, that has not had someone criticize us for a stance that we've taken, a vote that we've taken, or just because they don't like us. And but to lash out in the manner that was done is just not acceptable. I appreciate the work that the leadership did in trying to answer the question that a number of us immediately reached out to them to check with the city attorney to see what was out there that we could legally do. I agree that I believe that there is a pattern. I first want to let the public know and to remind council members that every year we go through a training. Every year, part of that training is the ethics training. It also is the human rights ordinance. It talks about, Open Meetings Act. It goes through all of those things. And every year we get a certificate telling us that we've completed that. Brandon was part of that, has been part of those meetings. So it isn't as if this is something that hasn't happened. He was there. He was part of it. One of the things that we did, and Patricia sat on it, I think Brian might have even sat on it, but we had, with the ad hoc committee on diversity, we made some changes to the human rights ordinance that was originally brought out by Kathy Dunbar. And part of what we added to that had to do with bullying. And it talked about cyberbullying, and it talked about, a number of those things. And we put it in there because we felt it was paramount to look at what was happening out there as a community. So it is extremely important that we not bury our heads in the sand with this issue, that we hold people accountable. Now, someone's could possibly say, we all received an email from Councilmember Betts that came today. I believe it was today. It might have been late Sunday, but neither here nor there, saying that he apologized for his behavior, but with a few, buts added to that. And what concerned me was this happened Tuesday night, and it took him till Sunday to realize he'd done something wrong, that he owed us an apology. Now, he said in this email that he was going to apologize to his constituents and to Michael Lynn. The last I looked, that had not happened. So here we are in a meeting, which one of the things, maybe it was my upbringing, I don't know, My mother used to say, you have to stand up for what you've said and done. You have to be accountable. He's not here tonight and won't be here until March 1st. So whether he's listening in or not, you know, we have no way of knowing for sure, but he's not here to face us as the person who says, I want, you know, please forgive me, I'm sorry. For me personally, I would like to see in this resolution that we ask him to think about resignation as well. And the reason I believe that's important is because, again, it's us speaking our voice. We know that we do not have the ability to remove him from office, but this is as egregious enough that we think he should resign. And based on that, as we, after other people make their comments, I'd like to be called on again to make that motion, to add that to the resolution. So with that, I'll yield the rest of my time to be able to, again, interject later on President Spatafor to add that motion.
Thank you, Councilmember Wood. Councilmember Garza.
Thank you, Council President. You know, I'm here. I'm going to make some comments tonight, and with an explanation of why I will be moving also to censor my colleague Brandon Betts. You know, we're in the middle of a pandemic. I know everybody's going through some hardships, hard times. But what my colleague did, I believe, was distasteful. It was a lack of respect for his constituent. I don't believe it was something that he jumped out of being angry and it was an impulse. You know, there was banter going back between those two gentlemen for quite some time. So I think this was a premeditated act by him. It's unfortunate that he chose to use those words and to get into that exchange with one of his constituents. The reason why I am giving this explanation, you know, the news reached out to me, some of my constituents reached out to me, and they wanted me to answer to it, and that's my answer. I will be voting to censure him. You know, whatever's going on, Mr. Betts, I hope, you know, you figure it out. I wish you were here today to stand up and take these questions from our constituents here in Lansing, and I wish everyone the best, and I will be voting yes to censor my colleague tonight.
Okay, are there others? Councilmember Dunbar.
Thank you. And thank you for indulging me. My hip is locking up and I'm standing. So when you see me, if I'm just a torso, sometimes I have to stand. I am, especially as somebody who co-sponsored that resolution for defund, disappointed in the behavior and in the treatment and in the language and the persistence. You know, I also saw those texts before, and you know, there was so many attempts by Mr. Lynn to ask Mr. Betts to stop. And as someone who works with survivors and marginalized communities, the word stop, I mean, it was literally stop, please stop. To not honor that in this case was so egregious. My concern right now, whatever Mr. Betts is going through, I like you, Councilmember Garza, wish him to find himself or whatever's going on. But we definitely have to take an action here. And my disappointment here is that, you know, unlike at the federal level, when you censure someone and they have no influence because they don't have committee assignments. I mean, here, the work is so necessary, and we've only got 8 of us to do it, right? So we're putting somebody out, and I'm fairly certain that while you're censured, you get paid, right? I mean, we can't take away his pay. So this scenario basically removes responsibility for any municipal related work while he's still getting paid. So I do hope that I hope he's taken a long, hard look, and if this is too stressful and he can't handle it, it's just best to step away. So that's all I've got.
Thank you, Councilmember Dunbar. Councilmember, any other council members wishing to address the council? Okay. Councilmember Wood, you wanted to discuss amendments.
Yes, I'd like to amend the resolution to include a line that recommends that Councilmember Betts resign from his office. And whether we get the wording from the city attorney and where it best fits into the resolution, I will take any suggestion.
So, yep, as I just want to clarify, as opposed to an ordinance, this does not require a pre-written amendment, so that is a proper course of action, just to let the body know. I would ask.
You want me to read one?
Yes, please.
I'd put at the end of the resolution, be it finally resolved that this council strongly recommends to Councilmember Betts that he consider resignation from the Lansing City Council. I mean, I just sort of pieced that together.
That meets my, and I would move that as an addition to the resolution.
Okay, well, that will open that motion up, and then Councilmember Spitzley, looks like you've got your hand up to discuss about that motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Councilmember Wood. So the language "consider resigning," and I at this point I'm splitting hairs. Can't we just say we strongly suggest that he resign, or why would we put "consider" in there? I'm just asking.
I actually would like to add, I support the resolution of censure, and I think that the decision about considering resignation needs to be something that the individual member needs to say if they have space in their life for this, if this is something that they're still committed to. I'm not at all saying that the words were acceptable in any way. I think it was reprehensible to go after a constituent repeatedly after being asked to stop, whether it was a city employee or elsewise. But to me, the consider is important because this is a decision that this person must reach on their own.
And I agree with that, President Spatafor, but I always ask the questions that I think people are going to be asking. And
nope, I appreciate that. And
sorry, I didn't mean screaming, you know, why would we say that? You know,
well,
go ahead.
I actually had it written the way you wanted it at first, and I struck it out. Strongly suggest to Councilmember Betts that he consider resignation from the Lansing City Council.
I will support that amendment. I hope he gets, I hope he takes care of himself. You know, you never wish, you know, anybody ill will, and I definitely don't wish him ill will. I wish he takes care of himself, but I will support that amendment. Thank you.
Okay, is there, thank you. Thank you, Councilmember Spitzley. I'm sorry to interrupt. Are there folks who wish to speak to the amendment to the amendment? Mr. Smith, City Attorney, could you please just read it one last time so that we're all very clear as to what we're voting on?
Be it finally resolved that this council strongly suggests to Council Member Betts that he consider resigning from the Lansing City Council. Does that work?
Does that comport with what you wanted to relay, Councilmember Wood?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Clerk, I believe that we are ready to call the roll on the amendment to the resolution.
Okay, on the amendment, Councilmember Garza,
Yes.
Councilmember Hussein,
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson,
Yes.
Councilmember Spatafor,
Yes.
Councilmember Spitzley,
Yes.
Councilmember Wood,
Yes.
Councilmember Dunbar.
Yes.
7 yeas, 0 nays, the amendment is adopted.
Okay, we have an amended resolution of censure in front of us. Is there anyone that wishes to speak more to this issue? All right, we lost Councilmember Spitzley somewhere over there. There she is. Excuse me. Sorry. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
On the resolution to censure, Councilmember Hussein,
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson,
Yes.
Councilmember Spatafor,
Yes.
Councilmember Spitzley,
Councilmember Spitzley, we didn't hear you.
Yes.
Councilmember Wood,
Yes.
Councilmember Dunbar,
Yes.
Councilmember Garza.
Yes.
7 yeas, 0 nays, the resolution is adopted. And that takes us to item number 12, the appointment of Samuel Brewster.
Councilmember Garza, I'm assuming you wanted this off the consent agenda for a reason, so I would turn it over to you, sir.
I did not pull it off the consent agenda. I'm not sure who did, but so anyways, I will give a little update or a little background. So the Committee on Public Safety met January 28, 2021, and we met Sam Brewster, Mr. Samuel Brewster. He told me to call him Sam. Sorry about that, Sam. So Sam Brewster started a neighborhood watch in his neighborhood, and since then he also helped start adjacent neighborhood watches in his area. So kudos to you, Mr. Brewster. Appreciate you doing that. And for several years, he's been serving on the Neighborhood Watch Advisory Board. His goal is to serve the Police Commissioners Board to provide any support and policies and procedures that aid the safety, education, and continued services of our law enforcement officers and first responders. Mr. Brewster, he has also attended and completed the Citizens Police Academy. When we had our meeting last week, he said he's in favor of community policing. He's willing to attend any of my second ward constituent contact meetings to provide any updates from the Police Board of Commissioners. And he's also willing to get out from the second floor of City Hall and bring the Police Board of Commissioners meetings into the public. So I just wanted to share that. And with that, I would move the resolution for confirmation of appointment of Samuel Brewster as a second ward member of the Police Board of Commissioners for a term to expire December 31st, 2024.
Thank you very much. So that is a proper motion. I do see a hand from Councilmember Jackson. Councilmember Jackson, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was in committee for the screening here. It passed out of committee 2-1. I was a person that voted against this appointment, and it's nothing personal against Mr. Brewster. In fact, he sounds, and from what I've heard, is a great person with great intentions. And I told him he's gonna make it. I mean, for the most part, we haven't passed him yet, but I just won't be supporting him because he hasn't necessarily taken any of his own steps to kind of educate himself about policing or police work for the most part, or public safety, other than in his role as neighborhood watch coordinator, which is fine, but nothing beyond that. And also when I asked him about possible police reform, and he didn't really have any new ideas, so to speak. He was kind of more into learning the role and adapting from there, which is fine, and that's what most people do. However, I think that the Board of Commissioners, all great people, are already kind of filled with, I would say, I guess, not reform-minded people. And I think just for the sake of thought diversity and diversifying the way that the police board operates, would be somebody else. So that's why I won't be supporting them. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Jackson. Seeing one hand, Councilmember Dunbar, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Brian, I appreciate, obviously, I don't sit on the committee, so I appreciate your insight into your vote process. I also know Mr. Brewster. I think he's a wonderful guy. I've also, I know his stance on policing is far more conservative than I think Councilmember Jackson and I are looking for in someone who is willing to look at police reform seriously, in especially with regard to not even on the defunding side, but looking at alternative policing models, less punitive models for social justice. So while I respect his role in the neighborhood, and I've worked with him years ago to form that neighborhood, and I wish him well, and I'm sure it's going to pass, but I will be joining Councilmember Jackson as a no.
Oh, sorry. Oh, it is unmuted. Okay. Thank you, Councilmember Dunbar. I don't see any further comments. So please, Mr. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
The appointment of Mr. Brewster, Councilmember Jackson.
No.
Councilmember Spatafor.
Yes.
Councilmember Spitzley.
Yes.
Councilmember Wood.
Yes.
Councilmember Dunbar.
No.
Councilmember Garza.
Yes.
Councilmember Hussein.
Yes.
5 yeas, 2 nays, the resolution is adopted, and that takes us to the claim disposition for claim number 1808.
Councilmember Dunbar.
Thank you. We did hear from the petitioner earlier during public comment, and we also heard from Mr. Dagner in committee. This is a very unfortunate situation. His son, as he was explaining earlier, a very long time ago, it seems now in this meeting, his son was hit by a car while he was biking on the river trail, and was in the hospital for a length of time. And the home that he lived in was unmanaged, I guess. And a neighbor was collecting his mail, and he didn't know that he wasn't supposed to have a couch on the front porch. As we heard Mr. Dagner say, you know, if he'd known, he would have picked up the couch. Unfortunately, you know, while he was stressed at the hospital dealing with his kid, you know, he's not looking at the mail. The mail was properly sent according to law. That the way the ordinance is written is if once it's mailed, notice is given. I can say that there was a concession made by Mr. Sanford from Code, and it had gone through the claims appeal process, and they will, I think they discounted it. Was it a couple $100 for the removal fee was the administrative cost from the city. And I'm sorry, I'm not looking at it right now. My screen sort of froze on me, so I can't like scroll through my packet to read the details on it. But my memory of it is that there was a portion of the fee that was waived, and we are considering the remaining $490. Did I get that right? Because I'm doing that right off my head.
Yes, there was an overcharge for the amount of yardage or something along those lines, and the claims review board did knock that down.
Correct. So while I think everybody here has sympathy with the case and the situation, and as we said earlier in committee, we wish his son well, and I know that he's got a road ahead of him. Ultimately, this is a claims denial that went through appeal and lost, except for that one concession.
Okay, do you move the,
Yeah, I guess I should move the resolution.
okay, good, thank you. Proper motion is before us. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
On the claim denial, Councilmember Spatafor,
Yes.
Councilmember Spitzley,
Yes.
Councilmember Wood,
Yes.
Councilmember Dunbar,
Yes.
Councilmember Garza,
Yes.
Councilmember Hussein,
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson.
Oh.
6 yeas, 1 nay, the resolution is adopted, and that takes us to the noise special permit.
Okay, the nice special permit again, Councilmember Dunbar. You took on the committees that merged, so you're gonna be busy this year.
I know, it's okay. Again, my screen isn't rolling, so I'm doing this from memory, but this is about the work that's going to be done on that collapsed main or sewer issue down there where the road's disintegrating, and they've got it coned off on Miller Road on the south side of the road between Pennsylvania and Aurelius. And this is a noise waiver request so that they can work on Saturdays and Sundays to get this thing up and running. So it goes from mid-April to mid-October of 2021. And I can read that because I can see my agenda only. So if I'm missing any other detail, Councilmember President Spatafor, let me know, but I think that's it and I will move it.
Yeah, I think those are the high points. The resolution has been moved. Mr. Vice President, is there anything you wanted to add to that? I know you were there.
Nope, she did a great job.
Okay, very good. Any further discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Spitzley,
Yes.
Councilmember Wood,
Yes.
Councilmember Dunbar,
Yes.
Councilmember Garza,
Yes.
Councilmember Hussein,
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson,
Yes.
Councilmember Spatafor.
Yes.
7 yeas, 0 nays, the resolution is adopted. And we are to setting a public hearing for SLU 5 of 2020.
Councilmember Spitzley.
Thank you, Mr. President. So what we have before us is special land use permit requests for 727 Sparrow Avenue, which used to be St. Casimir's Church, to allow for a community center outreach facility and a transitional housing shelter. Switching it, allowing it to be a special land use permit, transitional housing shelter in the A residential district. This would be a public hearing from March 8th. I had to think about that. I'm like, gosh, it's March already. For March 8th. The shelter is buying the complete footprint. It is my understanding that the gym and the common areas will still be available for public use in some form. And with that, I will move the resolution to set the public hearing for March 8th.
Thank you. The motion has been made to set the public hearing for SLU 5 2020. Is there, I'm sorry, yes, Councilmember Dunbar.
Thank you. I think I need to ask for a legal opinion on whether or not I need to recuse. I know that this is just for setting the public hearing, but ultimately, because my nonprofit is housed inside of that complex right now, my landlord is the Diocese of Lansing. When Child and Family Charities purchases it, they will be the partner organization. So I just wanted to disclose that. I'm totally ecstatic and excited about this whole process. And I think most of the neighborhood, all of the neighborhood that I know of is, but I need to know whether or not I need to recuse because of this.
Mr. City Attorney, do you see a conflict of interest present? You're muted, sir.
There's a procedure. You've raised an issue about conflict. There's a procedure in the charter for a vote on that by the city council. I think we can wait till it comes back to you to do that. You've raised the conflict issue, and then we can vote on it later, or you can vote on it later.
Okay. So Councilmember Dunbar, if it's all right with you, I think you've raised that there may be a potential issue as we move through the actual rezone, but for setting the public hearing, it does not sound like, unless you would like to force a vote on that now, we can probably move on. Okay. Seeing no further comments, would we please clerk call the roll on setting the public hearing?
Okay, on setting the public hearing for SLU 5, Councilmember Wood,
Yes.
Councilmember Dunbar,
Yes.
Councilmember Garza,
Yes.
Councilmember Hussein,
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson,
Yes.
Councilmember Spatafor,
Yes.
Councilmember Spitzley.
Yes.
7 yeas, 0 nays. The resolution is adopted. That takes us to the grant acceptance for cities for financial empowerment.
Councilmember Wood.
Thank you, President Spatafor. The first item we have from Ways and Means is a grant acceptance of $10,000 for neighborhood and city and citizen engagement. This grant pays for office staff that would be helping facilitate the launching of 2 financial empowerment centers. One is in Washtenaw County, Michigan, and the other is in Richmond County, Virginia. In the past, we received this as well, and there was some travel that was this also paid for, but these dollars are being used just for staff because of COVID. They are not doing the traveling, and they are doing Zoom meetings and having engagement that way. This grant is for September 15th, 2020 to May 31st, 2021. It was awarded September 15th. There was some language that the city attorney's office was working through. It finally came to neighborhood and citizen engagement in November. As soon as it came, it was sent through the process. By then, she had indicated that we were no longer having council meetings, and so this is taken up now. And so actually, this is a reimbursement grant as well. So with that, I would move the acceptance of this grant.
Thank you. Proper motion is before us. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, if the clerk would please call the roll.
Councilmember Dunbar,
Yes.
Councilmember Garza,
Yes.
Councilmember Hussein,
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson,
Yes.
Councilmember Spatafor,
Yes.
Councilmember Spitzley,
Yes.
Councilmember Wood.
Yes.
7 yeas, 0 nays. The resolution is adopted. Next is the fee change for bike lockers.
Councilmember Wood.
Thank you. This is fees that have been set for bike lockers that we had received a grant for and have now been, or either have been or are in the process of being installed. The bike lockers rental, 2 banks of these are going to be put on state of Michigan property and used primarily by the state. It is daily use is $1, weekly for 7 days is $5, and then monthly up to 31 days, depending on the month, is $12. These are done through an app. So you do have to have an app and a phone and as well as a credit card to be able to utilize these. We do have other bike lockers or bike racks within the city so that people who did not have cell phones or credit cards can utilize those as well. The bike lockers locations will be on the southwest corner of Ionia and Washington, the northeast corner of the intersection by the City Hall Plaza, the northwest corner of Washtenaw and Grand, in front of the South Capitol ramp on a concrete pad, the plaza south of the transportation building, the south side of the Treasury building, and at the CATA station. These fees, when we asked about them, will help pay for the batteries. We don't know at this particular point whether the costs that we have estimated that these lockers will generate, whether it will be enough to cover the expenses, but we know it won't exceed those at this particular time. There is a service charge that the credit card company does charge for each charge that goes on there. And so they'll be receiving some of those dollars as well. Be glad to answer any questions if anyone has any more. Otherwise, I move the fee charges for the bike locker rentals.
Okay, that's a proper motion. Are there questions for Councilmember Wood? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Garza,
Yes.
Councilmember Hussein,
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson,
Yes.
Councilmember Spatafor,
Yes.
Councilmember Spitzley,
Yes.
Councilmember Wood,
Yes.
Councilmember Dunbar.
Yes.
7 yeas, 0 nays, the resolution is adopted, and we're to the grant acceptance from Tri-County Regional Planning.
Thank you, Councilmember Wood.
Thank you. This is a grant that we would be receiving from Tri-County Planning. This grant is for the construction and shared use of a pathway between Forest Road and East I-496 / US 127 to Harrison. The amount of the grant is for construction is $192,799. The city's match of this is $48,195. There will also be some road work that will be done along with this grant. That funding that we'll be receiving that is for additional road work on Collins Road. When we talked to Mr. Kilpatrick, because there is the potential of some tree removal with this, and as many people know, Forest Road is considered a scenic site. So there has been discussion with the neighbors in the past, but now that they're closer to fulfilling this grant, I did reach out. I did ask them Mr. Kilpatrick to reach out to Councilmember Garza and the neighborhood to talk about the removal of the trees, as well as what new trees would be planted, so that instead of the neighbors starting to see trees being cut and thinking that they're going to do a clear cut in there, that they would know what was happening and be part of that. So with that, I would move the acceptance of the TAP grant for Forest Road.
Thank you. That is a proper motion. Seeing no further questions, would the clerk please call the roll?
The acceptance of the TAP grant, Councilmember Hussein.
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson.
Yes.
Councilmember Spatafor.
Yes.
Councilmember Spitzley.
Yes.
Councilmember Wood.
Yes.
Councilmember Dunbar.
Yes.
Councilmember Garza.
Yes.
7 yeas, 0 nays, the resolution is adopted. We're to the fees for reduced park and recreation fees.
Councilmember Wood.
Thank you. The reduction in the fees for softball would be $100 for each of the different categories that they have within the softball group, which would be a total reduction of $6,500. Current fees for softball teams are before and after dates of the adult softball registration is $325, and it would be reduced to $225. The adult softball fee class ball would be is currently $260 and would be reduced to $160, and then the last one is $240 and would be reduced to $140. When talking, we had the finance director there, or budget analyst there, Jake Brower, and he believed that the parks budget could absorb the reduction of the $6,500 because the reduction in costs at community centers and other things that were not being able to be used because of COVID. This is in hopes that it would encourage teams to come back to Lansing. They are looking at what the additional costs might be for addressing sanitation and things like that. They would look at also scheduling teams with more time in between games, so it would allow them to do some of the cleaning and the things that they would need to do. So with that, I would move the reduction of the Parks and Rec softball fees.
I think there's a proper motion before us. Is there any further discussion? All right, everyone sign up for softball. And with that, would the clerk please call the roll?
The softball fees, Councilmember Jackson.
Yes.
Councilmember Spatafor.
Yep. Yes. Excuse me.
Spitzley.
Yes.
Councilmember Wood.
Yes.
Councilmember Dunbar.
Yes.
Councilmember Garza.
Yes.
Member Hussein.
Yes.
7 yeas, 0 nays. The resolution is adopted, and we are to the budget carry forwards.
Councilmember Wood.
Thank you. This is the last item that we have before us this evening. I'm going to first ask for an opinion from the city attorney, because we might need to separate the question here. Since there are human service agencies that are money is being kept within that category. And I recused myself during the budget process to vote on the human service agencies. Do I need to recuse myself under this section. The agency that I'm the executive director for does receive funds. They are not in this batch that we have before us.
Mr. City Attorney, I think I know what you're going to say, but please.
Well, first of all, these are 6 vote items, the supplemental
Yes.
appropriations. So did you say, so the procedure would be, as the charter provides, that every council member shall vote on every matter unless excused by a conflict. So what you would do is remove from this list those that are conflict, and there has to be a vote on the conflict, excusing Carol Wood or whoever is a recipient here, and then vote on the main motion after that.
All right, so who has to make the motion on that?
Anyone. First of all, what agencies, Councilmember Wood, are we talking about here?
Yeah, I think the distinction here, Jim, I think, Councilmember Wood, do you mind if I?
Go ahead.
Councilmember Wood and Councilmember Dunbar have historically been excused from voting on the Human Service Agency grant because their organizations receive funding in some way, shape, or form. And I know that's not always been the case, nor will it always be the case. It just depends on the year of grant funding. Neither of their organizations are on this list. So
we don't have an issue.
Okay.
Just disclose what you just disclosed, but if they're not on here, then there's no problem. Just go ahead and.
Okay. Okay, I disclosed that my agency isn't on here. What we have before us is balances that remained from June 30th, 2020, as well as June 30th, 2019. These rolled over into the general fund. We have first the use of money for the fire operations. This is for the emergency management upgrades. There are sirens that need to be replaced as part of the emergency system that are used for tornadoes and bad weather and things like that. There's also in the emergency management center, there needed to be upgrades done to the screens and some of the computer systems that they had. With the police department, there is safety doors that are in the ops center that separate the school district building from the operational center. And then there are a list of human service agencies, which normally are carried forward into those, the groups that the funding had been originally appropriated for. And if they, during the year, make changes, then they have to come back to council. So what we're talking about is $133,700 for the fire department, $25,000 for the police department, and then the balance of that is for the human services, for a total of $707,584 that would be reappropriated. With that, I would move the budget resolution.
Thank you. There's a proper motion before us. Is there anyone wishing to speak to this item? All right, very good. If the clerk would please call the roll.
Okay, on the budget carry forwards, Councilmember Spatafor.
Yes.
Councilmember Spitzley.
Yes.
Councilmember Wood.
Yes.
Councilmember Dunbar.
Yes.
Councilmember Garza.
Yes.
Councilmember Hussein.
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson.
Yes.
7 yeas, 0 nays, the resolution is adopted, which takes us to the item that is not going to be acted on tonight, the Second Amendment to the stadium lease.
Yeah. Do we need a formal motion to table?
Motion
that
to
discussion?
table. Yeah,
Okay, I would entertain a motion to table it until 4:30 on Wednesday, February 10th, at which time there will be a special meeting.
So moved.
Been universally moved, but we'll give it to Patricia Spitzley since I heard her voice first. Oh yeah, my job is to say, any questions or discussion? Okay, sorry about that, folks. Seeing no further discussion, please clerk call the roll on tabling the item before us.
Okay, on the motion to table to a time certain, Councilmember Spitzley.
We're almost done, Peter. Yeah. Yes.
Councilmember Wood,
Yes.
Councilmember Dunbar,
Yes.
Councilmember Garza,
Yes.
Councilmember Hussein,
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson,
Yes.
Councilmember Spatafor.
Yes.
7 yeas, 0 nays. That motion is adopted.
I will note by the time we get through the referrals, Lisa may have finished that contract, so we may. Councilmember Wood, you have a question before I move on to the ordinances for introduction.
Yes, I do. And this is a question for the city attorney. Based on the fact that we tabled this with a date certain, which is, and a time, is this proper notice, or does the clerk still need to get out notice to council members?
still need the 18-hour notice. Yes,
Okay.
that's
I was
one
trying to
item,
make
as you
this life
mentioned.
a little easier, but
Appreciate the thought.
all right.
Okay, we are to ordinances for introduction. The following ordinance of the city of Lansing, Michigan, providing that the code of ordinances be amended by providing for the rezoning of property located in the city of Lansing, Michigan, and for the revision of the district maps adopted by section 1246.02 of the code for property located at Z9-2020, 3534 and 3538 West Jolly Road from CUP Community Unit Plan to DM1 Residential District was introduced by the Committee on Development and Planning, read a first time by its title, and referred to the Committee on Development and Planning.
Very good. Councilmember Spitzley.
Sorry about that. I locked my son out of the house. I had to try to run down and lock the door. What we have before us is a request to rezone at the current from CUP Community Unit Plan to DM1 residential. We were told that this is CUP is actually an obsolete zoning designation. The requester wants to rezone to DM1 residential. Currently on the site are duplexes, and he will want to do some low density residential use in the future. And so with that, I will move the ordinance for May 8th public hearing.
March 8th.
March 8th. Sorry about that.
All right. There has been a proper motion. Is there any questions? Looking at the wrong list, sorry. Seeing no questions, would the clerk please call the roll?
Setting the public hearing, Councilmember Wood.
Yes.
Councilmember Dunbar.
Sorry, yes.
Councilmember Garza.
Yes.
Councilmember Hussein.
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson.
Yes.
Councilmember Spatafor.
Yes.
Councilmember Spitzley.
Yes.
7 yeas, 0 nays. The public hearing is set for March 8th. And we are to the next introduction. Councilmember Dunbar introduced an ordinance of the city of Lansing, Michigan to amend the Lansing codified ordinances by amending chapter 608, section 608.04 to allow for consumption of alcoholic beverages on public property located in social districts established in conformity with state liquor control laws, and to clarify that if a state license or permit is obtained, alcoholic beverages may be consumed in a designated public area. The ordinance is read a first time by its title and referred to the Committee on City Operations.
Councilmember Dunbar.
Thank you. So you may jump in anytime you would like, Council President Spatafor. But ultimately, what we're doing here is setting a public hearing so that we can get comment on a proposal that will help our businesses in the time of COVID with outdoor seating areas, common areas that can be used by multiple different restaurants, facilities, to expand opportunities for outside seating and spaced seating, and even after COVID to allow for public gathering for eating. It's kind of like food court scenario outside in downtown and other areas like behind the avenue in these social districts to be determined. And then there's also a component of it that discusses the different city facilities at which we receive many, many requests for special events that would more than likely, at this point, they leave and don't do them there because they want to have alcohol at a wedding or a fundraiser or special event or what have you. And it would open up more city facilities like the SWAC or I think you were saying Potter Park Zoo, Francis Park, et cetera, for that type of consumption. Would you like to, are you listening?
Yeah, if you move it, then I can talk.
Okay, so I just did all of that while moving it when I should have just moved it.
Very good.
So I apologize, I move it.
Very good. So I just want to start by saying this is not a zoning ordinance. We did get that clarified with the city clerk and city attorney's office. So there's two major components here. One is the social districts, which it feels like an eon ago that we began talking about it. But what it does is it allows for social districts to be a thing in the city. Later on, we'd have to develop which zones were which would be just social districts, and then those have to go through a licensing process with the Michigan Liquor Control Commission. I have heard since talking about this late last year, summertime-ish, from many businesses and places around the city that are very interested in establishing social districts. Key among them would be downtown folks near Rotary Park. And then I've also heard from East Side businesses. I have also heard from a couple of folks have said, well, what are the criteria? And it's 2 licensed, I don't want to say dispensaries, that's wrong. Licensed establishments, excuse me, on-premise establishments together in the zone, and that would allow for a zone to exist. So there's some places that I hope other council members could think about that may make some sense in their particular wards or that they've thought of. The other component is consumption, the allowance of consumption on some public property, some parks, some city-owned properties. And I looked at this from the way the county does this, through a temporary liquor license purchase in certain spaces. And in talking with historically, some of the requests we've had as Councilmember Dummer has said SWAC, Turner Dodge. The Potter Park one is left up to the Potter Park board, but allows it to happen, in this current ordinance. And then also the allowance at parks with pavilions. And the pavilion stipulation there would be that you'd have to first rent the pavilion to get the license. Therefore, you can't just buy a license to have a 40 at a park, but rather, if you're planning an event with a pavilion and those types of things. So that's what we're talking about here. But again, as Councilmember Dunbar said, this is just merely setting the public hearing to get public input on this. So I will be quiet now and allow the council to digest or vote. Seeing no hands, there is a motion to set the public hearing, and I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll.
On the motion to set the public hearing, Councilmember Dunbar,
Yes.
Councilmember Garza,
Yes.
Councilmember Hussein,
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson,
Yes.
Councilmember Spatafor,
Yes.
Councilmember Spitzley,
Yes.
Councilmember Wood.
Yes.
7 yeas, 0 nays. The public hearing is set. We are to now speaker registration for public comment on city government related matters. That is any topic of city governance. Please raise your hand if you wish to address the city council. You'll be given up to 3 minutes. Once again, once the first person is finished speaking, we will stop accepting additional raised hands. And while folks are raising their hand, we are to reports of city officers, boards, and commissions.
Mr. Vice President.
I would move that all items be considered as read in full and that the appropriate referrals be made by you, President Spatafor.
All right, let me get a drink here. Proper motion has been made. If the clerk would please call the roll on that motion.
Councilmember Garza.
Yes.
Councilmember Hussein.
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson.
Yes.
Councilmember Spatafor.
Yes.
Councilmember Spitzley.
Yes.
Councilmember Wood.
Yes.
Councilmember Dunbar.
Yes.
7 yeas, 0 nays. The referrals are moved. We have items from the city clerk, minutes of boards and commissions.
Placed on file.
General fund status report.
Committee of the whole.
Lansing City Employment Vacancy Report.
Committee of the whole.
From the mayor, donation acceptance, Francine Die Living Trust.
Committee on Ways and Means.
2020 Justice Assistance Grant.
Committee on Ways and Means.
Bylaws for the South Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard Corridor Improvement Authority.
Committee on Development and Planning.
The appointment of Yvette Collins to the Capital Region Airport Authority.
The Committee of City Operations.
Act 1 of 2021, the acquisition of easements, Forest Road and Collins Road.
The Committee on Development and Planning.
Grant acceptance, Michigan State Housing Development Authority Emergency Rental Assistance Grant.
Committee on Ways and Means.
We have a series of 18, from Councilmember Jackson, we have a series of 18 ordinances to repeal sections of the city code of ordinances.
Yes, all items from Councilmember Jackson will be referred to the Committee on Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion.
And communications and petitions, communication from the neighbors of Scott Wood Association with recommendations on upgrades to Scott Woods Park.
Place those on file, please.
Communication from the Greater Lansing Association of Realtors in support of form-based zoning code.
Place those on file, please.
And communication from Lauren Whaley about protecting the community from violent policing.
Committee, place those on file, please.
Okay, we are to motion of excused absence.
Before we do that, I have two hands, first from Councilmember Dunbar and then Councilmember Wood. Councilmember Dunbar.
Thank you. I just want to make a point of order, maybe. I remember when my screen was frozen and we were talking about the claim denial. I am worried, and my text messages to Sherry, that I might have done it wrong, that we voted it down, like we denied his claim, but he had gone through claims review. The original charge was $650. It came down to $490. And Jim, could you did we actually do the vote wrong? Because I want to make sure that we actually upheld the $490 and didn't deny him the $490 and go back to the $650.
The resolution I'm reading at it denies the claim in the amount of $490. So it denies the $490.
It denies the claim.
So it doesn't go back to the $650. It denies the $490.
Recall that the claimant was appealing the reduced rate as well.
Okay.
Yeah, what we did in committee was we granted a portion of the claim and I think it was $160, and we denied the remaining $490. So that's what is in the resolution, and that's what we supported tonight.
I just wanted to make sure that that $490 was what's actually gonna show up on his bill.
I'm good.
Okay, and then Councilmember Wood.
Just a second here. I'm looking at the item. Hold on just a minute here. Okay. under communications and petitions, the communication from the neighbors of Scott Woods Association, you placed on file. Could that please be sent to the Parks Board? These were requests that could be taken up as part of the budget recommendation for park millage funds.
Mr. Clerk, could you please also send that to the Parks Board? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now we are to motion of excused absence.
Do we have a motion to excuse absent members? Councilmember Jackson, I see your head. Yes, okay, very good. Is that go ahead.
Yes, I'll move to excuse Councilman Betts based on his request for that.
Thank you. That is a proper motion. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Hussein.
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson.
Yes.
Councilmember Spatafor.
Yes.
Councilmember Spitzley.
No.
Councilmember Wood.
No.
Councilmember Dunbar.
No.
Councilmember Garza.
No.
3 yeas, 4 nays. The motion does not pass.
Okay. We are now on to further remarks by council members. Are there any council members who wish to make a statement? I would just like to say something, if that's all right. I guess it is all right. I'm the chair and I get to do what I want. So I just want to point, I forgot to mention this at the beginning of the meeting. Throughout the pandemic, we've been working with City TV and with the IT department and Sherry and Zoom to get some captioning. And at the risk of drawing this meeting out longer, I just wanted to say we were able to figure out finally with several hours on the phone with customer support with Zoom how to get those live transcriptions. I will admit they are not perfect. They absolutely have no idea how to spell my last name, and I'm okay with that. But I think that they are a huge step forward in terms of access. And I know that City TV still works with a third-party vendor to add more clear captions to the videos once they get online. But we hear folks when they say, or when we hear concerns about those types of access issues. So we are working on it, even if we don't always have an immediate result. So I just wanted folks to see that. And if you're having issues with the captions, please let me know through email and we will figure out a way to make sure that that's showing up. But it is a setting that you can turn on Zoom, and then they do show up on City TV as live meetings. So I just wanted to make sure that that was made plain for folks, because this is I think only our second meeting where it's been available. So I wanted to make sure that was talked about. And I think that does it. Mr. Mayor, any comments from you or your executive assistant? No, thank you. Mr. Clerk, it's all you.
Okay, we are to the final section of public comment on city government related matters. Again, raise your hand and we will be closing, accepting additional speakers after the first speaker finishes. And that first speaker will be Kirby Riles, followed by Ash.
Hello, thank you for letting me speak. Council and Mayor Shore, I know you guys are very tired. I hope that we're not going to bore you too much. I just want to say regarding the proposed 15 ordinances that Councilmember Jackson has proposed, some of them are certainly worthy of consideration, in my opinion. The desire to prevent abuse is certainly something we want. But as a citizen of Lansing, I think some of these will be counterproductive. I think we can achieve our desire to have a police force that is responsive and caring by hiring more minority police, by making sure that all police have their video cameras on. We need to rely upon our judges to deal with subjective cases. I think we run the risk of micromanaging our police, who are under extreme pressure They're dealing with people in the worst times of their life, in the worst possible situation, and they need to have all the tools at their disposal. These laws have been with us a long time, and I think most of them are pretty good. I think we might put ourselves in a position of punishing good police in an attempt to manage bad police when we should be firing bad police. I think there's also an assumption that police will abuse their position, and that does happen. I think the safeguards we have with the judges, the cameras will allow us to prevent that. Some of the problems with it, some things are certainly duplicative. I think we're running a real danger when we repeal an ordinance that prohibits obscene, taunting language. I think when that's going, you're going to have a violent incident, and a policeman or police officer needs to be able to act on that. I think destroying trees, I guess there's another ordinance that covers that. Carrying weapons in the city, I think there's some concerns there. I'm particularly concerned about the repealing of the ordinance against begging. We have elderly citizens in this city, and I'm a man, I'm not intimidated, but there is an element of intimidation when somebody who maybe look lower off knocks on the doors, an elderly person, and asks for money. And if they get that money, just an attempt to get the person to go away, they're going to come back. We don't want to get rid of that. Repealing people that are loitering in areas of prostitution or drug use is handicapping our police. I think we have to trust their judgment. And you can't see if someone's carrying drugs. You can't see if they're a prostitute, but it's not too hard to determine for an experienced police officer that there is someone there. Thank you for letting me speak to this, and look forward to hearing more about it.
And thank you. So again, that was our first speaker. So we will stop accepting additional speakers signing up. And next we have Ash, followed by Pete Hochstedler.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm speaking today to demand a vote of no confidence for Andy Shore, to demand Council Member Betts resign, to demand a hearing on the Lansing Police Department murder of Anthony Hulan and the police brutality on Baker Street, to demand you shut down the jail and support the resolution to defund the police, to demand that the council do something to force officers to wear their masks, and to demand that you do not allow city departments to dip into HRCS community funds. So even though no confidence vote wouldn't remove Shore, it would signal to the people of the city that the council understands what he's done and cares about the people he's harmed and may harm in the future. He was too afraid to interact with the protesting city employees and retirees whose healthcare he stole away. But he felt comfortable enough to interact with white supremacists and militiamen on the day of the presidential inauguration, calling them peaceful when their intent and impact was far from and continues to be far from peaceful. So that's just, wow. I already spoke at length about this during the first public comment, but if you're listening on city TV right now, Brandon Betts, resign. You're unfit for office, and now you're just yet another mediocre white man upholding white supremacy culture. What a way to burn your bridges. What a disappointing and disgusting set of choices to make. What a truly terrible turn to take in life. Thank you to the council people who chose not to excuse Betts from his cowardly absence today, but the city issues go farther than Betts. The coroner ruled that Anthony Hulan's death was a murder. Then officials lied to the people, saying that the situations like the murder of George Floyd couldn't happen here. Anthony Hulan's murderers are still working in that jail. The police brutality on Baker Street happened because you allow murderers to keep their jobs. And when you do that, it makes it clear to their peers that the tactics they use can be continually used without punishment. Not only should the murderers of Anthony Hulan be fired and tried, the jail itself needs to be shut down. And if you really want to be in solidarity with the people impacted by anti-Black violence, you also need to support the resolution to defund the police. Condemning Betts's anti-Black sentiments is the minimum, and it's not enough by itself to signify your solidarity. Do something about the officers not wearing masks too. They're abusing their discretion, and you decided to allow them to enforce this rule. They aren't following themselves. Their discretion is endangering those in the community with whom they come into contact, and it wouldn't be that difficult to do something about it. You just seem to not want to do something about it. So in summary, there must be a vote of no confidence for sure. Brandon Betts, resign. There also must be a hearing about the brutality committed by Lansing-based police officers. The murderers must be fired. The jails need to go. Support the resolution to defund the police. And you need to do something about officers' pandemic-specific endangerment of citizens. And also, don't allow other city departments to use funds set aside for the community through the HRCS grant program. And again, defund the police. Everything that man before me said is ridiculous, and police officers very much do abuse their power. They are given a mighty amount of power, and they're not held accountable. They're clearly not held accountable, or else the murderers of a man wouldn't be currently working. Like, they're still working. They're still working right now in that jail, and that's just allowed to happen. We're just allowing murderers to continue to be in a space where they can murder another person. Like, and that's supposed to hold all the police accountable when you do things like that? It's ridiculous. Defund the police.
Thank you. Next, we have Pete Hochstedler, followed by Charles Ford.
Yeah, hi. Apologies for my earlier misunderstanding about the appropriate time for my comments, but I just want to speak in favor of Councilperson Jackson's proposals for repeals of ordinances. Specifically 42 and 43. So I work with Lansing Syringe Access. We're a needle exchange in Lansing, also called a syringe service program or harm reduction program sometimes. These types of programs, this model, are endorsed as a best practice in disease and death prevention by a host of experts, including the World Health Organization, CDC, AMA, American Society of Addiction Medicine, the National Association of Social Workers, American Nurses Association, American Psychological Association, among others. And since we've opened in August 2019, we've reached more than 200 individuals. We've distributed over 100,000 sterile syringes, collected for safe disposal 75 gallons of used sharps, and distributed over 100 gallons more in medical grade sharps containers. And maybe most notably, the naloxone or Narcan that we've distributed through our program has been used to reverse over 300 opioid overdoses, 90 since the start of this fiscal year, which has been during a time of increased nationwide overdose death. And these overdose reversal numbers are just the ones that have been reported back to us. So the actual numbers are probably higher. We've been able to achieve this reach in large part due to our emphasis on peer-to-peer distribution, which means we've encouraged people to take supplies for themselves and for others with whom they're in contact. Often secondary distribution can reach some of the most vulnerable members in our community, people who are unlikely to enter an office or reach out to a phone number. So unfortunately, this means that the individuals doing the most difficult work in our harm reduction efforts could be construed as being in violation of both of the ordinances mentioned above, and it speaks to their courage that they continue to do that work at considerable risk to themselves. Repealing these ordinances offers support to their work and appeals to a collective common sense that it should not be illegal to engage in public health best practices. So during a time of COVID, we've been learning in our highly individualistic culture that health is essentially collective and communal. If those around me are healthier, then I am more likely to be healthy. We also have other ideas for local legislation that could promote health in this sphere. And if any council members are inspired to reach out and dialogue with us, you can contact us at lansingsyringe@gmail.com. Kirby Ryle's earlier comments are dangerous. Law is the first accountability for police, and keeping expansive and vague laws targeting vulnerable individuals does not promote public well-being. For now, please consider joining Councilperson Jackson in this common sense repeal. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Next, we have Charles Ford, followed by a phone number ending in 325.
Okay. Thank you for allowing me to speak. Mayor Shore, this is me talking about the fact that your staff continues to provide incomplete and misleading information to the council, especially when it concerns African-American issues and issues that pertain to that are tonight. Councilman Spitzley continues to say that my client for the rezoning is still operating. He is not still operating. The city knows, and Planning Director Stackowitz never mentioned that he went through the city process and he is now commercial, has a car dealership. He's not, he stopped growing because once he found out he was not in compliance, he took the necessary steps. And you never question why the planning board approved this, even after the director made her same statements to the board. And then when I made my statements and showed and shared my screen and showed things, the planning board approved it 4-2. Misleading and inconsistent information. On the Betts matter, Councilman Betts, other thing, my hand was raised on both issues to speak when my topic was present, even though I've spoken public comment, and I didn't even get a courtesy of even a recognition that my hand was raised as a African-American attorney and African-American who served on this board. I thought that was totally disrespectful. As far as Councilman Betts, the city attorney Smirka, he misled you again. If you look at city charter 2.302, it says forfeiture and removal. There only needs to be a public hearing and the council member, and then the council with notice to the public on charges of grounds for forfeiture. And that's number 3. Number 3 talks about violates provisions of the charter. If you look at 5.50, the standards of conduct, it clearly says that public office and employment not to be used for personal gain, that the integrity of the operation of the city government to be subject to scrutiny of the public, and to acts or actions not compatible with the best interest of the city. He never told you that. I think Councilman Betts should have been, an ordinance should have been put forth for him to be removed, but yet you gave him a raise. You say, don't do any work. We're going to pay you, but don't do any work. You're not going to do any work, but we're going to still pay you. He should have been, ordinance should have been there to remove him. His pay should have been stricken. And it even talks about he can work, but he can't vote on the resolution that you have to remove him from office. So I'm very disappointed, very concerned. I will be going to the city clerk to present my concern to the ethics board about my issue this evening. And we're going to appeal it as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have someone whose phone number ends in 325. Who, if you want to identify yourself by name, and
yes,
they'll be followed by Kyle.
Yes, my name is Deb Parrish. I finally figured out how to make a comment without having a smartphone on Zoom. I hope you can hear me.
We can.
Okay, I want to say I too am ashamed for the behavior of my first ward councilman. And I do want to thank Loretta for bringing, those memories back of his past unacceptable behavior. On redeveloping Lot 49A and B, I wonder if you're planning on selling the Lansing Center. Those lots are crucial to having big events if we ever get out of this COVID age. We park trailers and trucks there. If they're overflow for the baseball, I just wondered if you're making people walk from the ramp to go to the Lugnut Stadium once it's full. I would like to say kudos to the council members who are donating their raises. I think that is great in these financial times that we find ourselves in. I would also like to comment on some of the way that the members conduct themselves on Zoom. It's not really very professional, or they're taking it seriously. If you would not eat cereal or have your children climbing all over you on the dais and council chambers, I don't believe you should be doing that in the meetings. I yield back my time.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have Kyle, followed by Linda Appling.
Hello again. I want to say a quick thank you to President Spatafor for the reminder about the TV broadcast. I was not aware that this broadcast existed. Now that I am, you won't have to worry about such language from me. I'm admittedly beyond frustrated with the state of racial affairs in this city, and I lost my cool. I want to offer a quick and sincere apology to Councilmember Jackson. I know your children may or may not have been present for my comment, and I know kids hear things. They don't need to hear it here though, and they don't need to hear it from me, and so I do apologize. On city government matters, I want to say thank you to Councilmember Wood for your amendment on the late item today, and I want to uplift the ordinances from Councilmember Jackson. It really feels like cleaning house. It feels like a lot of these old laws are out of date, and just frankly, I mean, one that stuck out to me is like ridiculous was a misdemeanor for playing in the street. there's this thing called natural consequences. The natural consequence for playing in the street is that you might get hit by a car. We don't need to criminalize it too. This is not something that police need to be enforcing. And I would second the comments for earlier with regards to the syringes. You know, these are things that like we can deal with differently, and dealing with them through punishment, through saying, well, you've done this and so now that's illegal, you can't do that. That doesn't fix a problem. That just sort of creates more paperwork for everybody and more work for everybody. And at the end of the day, like, hurts poor people. So yeah, I guess those are my comments, and I'll yield the rest of my time.
Thank you. Next, we have Linda Appling, followed by Mike Lynn.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, Linda, we can hear you, but there is an echo.
Okay. There, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. For the record, my name is Linda Appling, and I reside in the city of Lansing. I would like to make some comments in terms of Councilman Jackson's request for repeal of various ordinances. Due to the time constraints, I can only respond to a small number of the proposed ordinances for repeal. One, first, I'd like to point out that Councilman Jackson asserts that elimination of these ordinances will not result in an increase in crime. No proof of this assertion has been presented. It is simply a statement of his belief. If he has any proof regarding this assertion, let him put it forth. I would like to respond first to, I think, section 680-06, borrowing money from students. Before any action is taken on this ordinance, the Lansing Public School Boards should be consulted. As an aside, I have personally seen students beaten for their money, even though that may have been some time ago. Further, this particular prohibition helps people it stops people from using students in terms of selling drugs. And believe me, they will sell them in the schools. And if you don't have the money flowing, then it's much more difficult to sell them. The second thing I would like to respond to is carrying weapons in public places. I am totally opposed to eliminating this ordinance. Michigan has had to experience militants standing before the people's house with loaded guns, intimidating our legislature. We have also had to experience the threat of our governor being kidnapped and perhaps murdered. In no way should this provision be removed. I personally do not wish to live in the wild, wild west. If I did, I'd probably move to Wyoming. This other section I'd like to respond to is 656.05. No one has asked Leno about repeal of this ordinance. In Fulton Park, we have had fires started, and some people have campfires there. They really do have campfires. They have provisions for campfires out there. Not only that, but some residents have been complaining about people being loud and basically making a significant amount of noise. They aren't able to sleep. We do have that particular gate locked, and then it's unlocked in the morning so that people can use it. And others have been concerned about their safety regarding the walkway that has been put in back there in terms of Fulton Park. Using that particular walkway, these individuals do not necessarily feel safe. And I would also like to point out that in terms of defunding the police, I'm opposed to defunding the police. What people seek is effective, non-discriminatory policing. It's as simple as that. There are a multitude of ways to achieve this objective. One, allow police to be sued for their actions.
Ms. Zapling, your time has up.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next is Mike Lynn, followed by Lee Fitch or Nikki Finch. Mike?
Muted.
Mike, we can't hear you. Where'd he go? If he pops back up, we'll come back to him. But for now, let's go to Lee Fitch and Nikki Finch. Oh.
Hello, this is Leah Fitch. I'd like to reiterate some of the criticisms earlier about the hypocrisy surrounding the conversation about Brandon Betts. Without trying to defend Betts's despicable behavior, I want to remind everyone of Andy Shore's overseeing of the use of chemical weapons on minors on the evening of May 31st, 2020. I was there. A large group of people, mostly people of color, and some of them no more than 14 or 15, were literally sitting down in the road doing nothing when the LPD deployed chemical weapons without notice into the public. I understand and agree that Betts's behavior is inexcusable, and equally agree that Andy's moral high ground is vacuous and a cheap symbol. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is identified as Planned Parenthood advocates. So if you want to give us your individual name.
Well, let's pretend like I didn't accidentally sign into my work account and not representing Planned Parenthood at all. Please don't get me fired. But I just want to reiterate I would like to give my support to Councilperson Jackson's efforts to repeal a lot of ordinances. I believe that it is extremely important for us to only give the tools that are absolutely necessary to people, and for us to look at the world in a different way than what makes those of us with a lot of luck in this world more comfortable. If we are lucky enough to own property, that is wonderful. If we are lucky enough to feel safe, that is wonderful, but we should not give others the power to hurt the disadvantaged in order to hold on to our own personal bubble, if we can. I think it is important as a city that we work together to ensure that when some of us come up, all of us come up. And I think passing these ordinances is a really good way to ensure that we are able to, repealing those ordinances is a really good way to ensure that we're working together and not immediately looking at people negatively. Not if someone is engaging in sex work, not to look down upon them, but rather to and not to criminalize them. If someone is in a position where they're asking for money, not to actively spit at them in any way, but really to encourage and support each other. I think is the attitude we should have, and I would like us to maintain that attitude as much as we can, especially in our legal system. I'd also briefly like to say that if there are children or people need to eat on city council, please do. You're humans just like the rest of us. You matter, you're important, and what we view as professional or unprofessional matters so much less than surviving right now in the middle of a pandemic. And I sincerely hope that none of you stop doing what you need to do to literally survive in what is an immensely tough time. And I just wanted to make sure I said that as well. So thank you for your time, and that's all I have to say.
Thank you. And I'm sorry, your name was?
Ethan Schmidt. I talked in earlier public comment.
Okay, yep, okay, got it. Okay, thank you. Next we have Erica Lynn, followed by Tobias Webb.
Real quick before my time starts, my husband Michael Lenz got
He'll be
booted, and
back
he
on
is
at the
back now.
bottom, if that's okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
he is back online.
Yep, we'll get him.
So thank you tonight. I know it's late and I will try to keep this quick, but I do want to address really quickly Councilmember Garza's remarks earlier. And I want to direct this at him because I want to say this publicly to clarify. He said that there may have been some banter or something leading up to the situation with Councilmember Betts. And I want to publicly say that that is just simply untrue. I want to make very, very clear that, first of all, I don't consider conversations with our council member, because we are first ward, about his accountability to the people and his accountability to things that the people are asking him to do as our first ward council member, as banter. But even so, the criticism that he faced in the week leading up to this incident was just that criticism about him getting the vaccine out of turn, his criticism about him reneging on commitments that he made to our communities. So that isn't banter, and I just wanted to really, really clarify that, because I thought that that was a little bit out of line and out of scope for what we were talking about. Real quick, I support Councilmember Jackson's repeals. It just makes sense. But I wanted to bring it back to something much more important, because as I was listening to the canned and prepared statement that Propaganda Shore read tonight, I just wanted to really point out that that was really too little and too late. My thoughts on this, because I have thoughts, of course, I really think that you were just simply unwilling to acknowledge the crap show that was Councilmember Betts's situation, because I think that you really could not acknowledge the despicable behavior because it risked helping my husband's reputation, and you can't do that in any way. It wasn't all that long ago that I questioned you publicly on why you would comment on a lawsuit. You commented very publicly regarding my husband to the media. You specifically said that he was one unhappy employee, and you went on to say that in essence, you all held a training and moved on. And I wondered why you would comment publicly, because we know that you don't do that. I mean, there is a whole entire family of Anthony Hulon that you won't comment on anything surrounding that. You wouldn't comment on this. So it seems as if you were forced into commenting on this. You read that prepared statement, but I could tell you really didn't want to. So I really wanted to point that out, because it's very important to understand that while this is a crap show with Brandon Betts, your leadership has created and cultivated an environment in which council members are comfortable speaking to constituents in the way that he did and the way that he spoke to my husband. Because let's be clear, under your leadership, quote unquote, on May 31st, LPD tear gas peaceful protesters. You silenced your original diversity and equity committee, and then you replaced them with your handpicked alliance and asked that they sign a confidentiality agreement. You have 9 active lawsuits filed for racial discrimination, which you are named. This is going on right now. You lied to the public,
Ms. Lynn?
hiding the murder of Anthony Hulon. These are all things that
Thank
you
you.
have done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Tobias Webb, and they will be followed by.
Oh, Tobias.
All right. Yeah, representing the Metro Lansing Poor People's Campaign tonight. And on behalf of that group, I want to say that landlords in Lansing are not held accountable. Your systems for holding landlords accountable are inadequate. One particular instance you've let the people of Lansing down in this area is the Porter Apartments. We've come to you repeatedly over time about this. And you all still allow that building owner a rental license. So the violence to that subsect of our community is on you. The fact that we've come to you so many times about that, and you say, you know, you've sent some inspector. How many times do we have to come to you before you believe us that the inspector probably messed up? The fact that y'all have done nothing to investigate into the murder in the jail of Anthony Hulon, not even publicly and acknowledging it, shows that you're on the side of Andy Shore, not the side of justice. Murderers in our city need to be charged. The lack of accountability for the police here is criminal. And so that's also on y'all, because we've come here and we've asked you to stop what's happening with Andy Shore and the lack of accountability again and again. And nothing's moving forward on that. When there's been proposals sitting in the wings to even totally get rid of the Lansing jail, which definitely makes sense after this kind of stuff happening. The homeless community needs your help, and by enabling Andy Shore's actions and not helping to call out his lies, you are actively harming them when you should be actively helping them. It's super frustrating to when you hear, you know, from these homeless communities. We got a call from Andy Shore. He said we have 2 weeks to try and clean stuff up and make the situation better. And then a week and a half later, there's a dump truck throwing away people's sentimental items and valuable items that they've been able to accumulate despite living in a really rough situation. Jackson, you've done well tonight trying to get rid of some of this legislation that is bad for poor communities here. We need more of this happening with more of y'all, and you need to be making legislation that actively benefits poor people as well. And if we had community policing like y'all be talking about, you wouldn't be ticketing these communities already, but your police aren't beholden to us, the community. So we gotta do this all in writing. Peter, I know you want to cut me off, but I get those extra couple seconds because you know you're letting people go over time to criticize Brian. So I just want to uplift him one more time.
Thank you. Next, we have Mike Lynn.
Hello, everybody. Mike Lynn here. A lot of the people that you've heard here today have come here in my defense, and I appreciate all of them. I've spoken to a lot of you city council members outside of this venue and this platform, and most times I'm talking to you to advocate for others, and most days that's what I do when I come on here. I very rarely talk about my own personal situation, but I'm hurting, and that's plainly what I can tell you all. Everything that I do, everything that you all see me do, everything that you hear my name attached to, I am most likely advocating for people, or I'm doing chest compressions on somebody, or I'm running on a burning fire. So I'm getting tired of being made out to be some villain by all of you here. Garza, there is no back and forth. I haven't spoken to that man since December 10th. Where was the back and forth? The text message you seen was what you hear, what you seen. I haven't spoken to him since December. And I'll be willing to hand that text message over to you as well, like I did City Pulse. City Pulse decided not to air that part of it because it would have made Brandon look even worse and would have made me look even better. Because in that conversation, I was explaining to him there is no friends when it comes to my community. I will lay on a sword for this community. That's what it says in those text messages. I'm tired of being victimized by this city government. I'm going through it right now as we speak. I'm tired of SMRCA allowing the fire department and allowing Andy Shore to bring policies that are dug so deep in a book, the same ones that Brian Jackson is trying to get taken down, to bring me to trial, which is a tribal council, because at the end of the day, the people that are bringing me there with this disciplinary, I made multiple complaints about racism too. And I made them to you, Andy Shore. Chief Tobin is a racist. He's a plainly racist, and he's the man that brings these charges on me over and over again. And the last time he did it, Andy, you had to come out publicly and denounce it and take away a 10-day suspension. And here we are again about a First Amendment right, about a phone number I was publicly given by somebody on my off time while I'm defending and advocating for a family in the McKinstry family, because you all selfishly put up a dog over top of a human being. And you want to call me to the table for my job, which I don't even have. I haven't been paid in over a year from you all at the city of Lansing. I had to beg you for the last 3 weeks to even give me a job status. Do I even have insurance anymore? Council, I'm asking you, advocate for me once. Pat, your son works there. He will deal with this. Advocate for me one time. I've laid on it for this whole community over and over and over again. I ask you all one time. Bring an investigation into LFD. Bring an investigation into this SMRCA's office allowing these things to happen to us. I am a human being. I'm an advocate. I am a fireman. I'm a civil servant. I'm somebody who's given it all.
Thank you. Thank you. And our final speaker
Public comment,
tonight.
Mr. Clerk? All right, that concludes public comment for the evening. Thank you all for joining us this evening at 11:19. We are adjourned.